Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Yeah, you're going to be entertained today. You cannot stop me. You cannot stop this podcast. Many have tried, none have succeeded. Today I've got Ryan Stone on with me today. I kind of wanted to get into the She's Not Yours topic we were talking about yesterday on Rule Zero. I have a new essay about this, and Ryan has a pretty good video about it too, so thought we would talk about it today. There's a lot to get into. It's a lot. It's much deeper than just a trope. There, see? There you go. Ryan Stone, somewhere around there, showing me his screen. There we go. There we go. Hold on. Now you're unmuted.
I was going to say, start with the D-Generation X photo. That's kind of where you're going with this.
Let me start off by I'm not going to apologize for having my video pulled again. The same thing happened. Oh, that's a nice little look at that. Look at your nice little signature right there. That's cool.
Production quality, stepping it up.
Oh man, it's in magenta. People might question your manhood if you put it in those kinds of colors.
That's the point.
Yeah, I got my Wednesday show got pulled for putting the. I can only think that it is because, well, I thought, anyways, on Wednesday it was because I had used the Medusa statue in my thumbnail, and then of course I had to default back to the to my Q&A thumbnail and restart the thing. This time I may have made a tactical error in using the thumbnail that I did. YouTube doesn't like certain thumbnails. And I think what's interesting to me is that they pull videos that don't exist. There's no, like, the content is, it's clearly not the content. It's clearly not even the description. I didn't put anything, there was even no swear words in the description. But apparently they didn't like what they saw. I got a feeling that they might not, but usually that's because someone reports it. So there you have it. I'll just let everyone's imagination run riot about that. Yeah, I'll do my best, Dave. Thanks a lot for the tip. Thanks for the late tip, Dave. Oh, but everybody's here though. I'm actually surprised. I got 630 people already watching, and we had almost 300 people in the waiting room, which was great for a video that I started literally 15 minutes ago.
I'm not surprised. They're good people.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. So.
All right.
Okay. Bulletproof coffee in the house. Leaves like that oily grease on your face too. I have Sam Bada in the chat. He's modding the chat, so mind your manners. He had Banhammer. Excuse me. He has got Banhammer privileges today, and they will definitely be enforced.
How's Ollie doing today, by the way? Is he still doing all right?
Who's that?
Oliver. Isn't the dog Oliver?
No. Ned and Bambi. Ned and Bambi.
Who the heck's dog was Oliver then? I feel bad now.
That's Sam's dog. Sam's dog is Oliver.
I'm asking how Sam's dog is.
Yeah. Sam's dog. Yeah, I was like Oliver. No, yeah. Sam's dog Oliver's great, man. Sam's dog Oliver is his helper dog. It is his life-saving helper dog. So, I love that dog. That's a good dog. I feel like that dog's kind of like my dog too.
I wish I could party with my dogs. He took his dog out to the bar. He just sat underneath the chair and just waited there, and you'd have a drink and pet him a bit. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Why can't Chomsky be this nice?
I'm glad you feel so, Spaceman. I am going to give you a chance to sort of sound off about that pretty soon too, because I think maybe at the end of this month, I'm going to do a video where I'm just going to sort of let people kind of, do their testimonials, kind of like what I did last year for the V Pro video, the documentary that I did. And I did
that one was good.
and everybody loved it so much, and they really wanted to. I could only do it for like an hour and 20 minutes because I had the film crew behind me. But everybody really wanted to jump in on that and just sort of speak their piece. So I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to do that towards the end of this month. It'll be a year since I did that. So we'll do that soon. Today I wanted to talk about a common, I want to call it a maxim. I don't know if that's really the terminology. Maybe it's an idiom, but it is
I've always said heuristic.
Heuristic. That's a good one. I don't want to call it a trope because I know that a lot of people are starting to call it a trope, but it's the she's not yours, it's just your turn. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday on Rule 0, and I felt like we didn't give it enough time because we only talked about it in the last 15 minutes of the show, and I wanted to dig into it with you, but we kind of got sidetracked by some other stuff that we were talking about too. So.
Arguing over whose floor was higher up on the building, yeah.
Exactly. Garth, thanks for that $50, my friend. Very, very kind of you. I will apply that to the Greyhound Fund. So when we were talking about this, you have a video out right now. Do you want to just give a quick breakdown of what you went into in that video? Because I did an essay. Once I saw that, you did you had a tweet that you were responding to. Yeah. And then you had a video that you sort of you felt like you compelled, I guess, to go do it. And it's only like 18, 20-minute video about the saying, she's not yours, it's just your turn. Yeah. Because apparently that's the topic du jour in the manosphere right now. And I've talked about this before, but not as the maxim of she's not yours, but more like exclusivity, non-exclusivity, and plate spinning. Like people know me for plate theory. And that saying, let's just say, is it kind of sprang from the idea of non-exclusivity. So what did you get into in your video?
Well, the video was easy enough. I mean, I saw a tweet. Every now and then Twitter decides to send me stuff. I don't follow Bulldog anymore. And then I saw it and I'm like, okay, she's not yours, she's just your turn. In my mind, I already kind of knew where it was going. So I watched the video and I'm like, if you get everything wrong, this makes sense. Or if you don't look at it too close. And I'm like, I kind of need a video for this week anyway. So I sat down, I put an essay together on it because it's the funny thing about red-pilled material is there's always two levels to it. And I know this is going to sound like more intellectual than it is, but there's that initial anger phase guy that he'll read something and it gets him to stick around and start paying attention. And then there's once it clicks. And once the guy gets it, like you said, girls like guy who just gets it. Once he gets it, things start to the stuff takes on a better appreciation. It ages like a fine wine. And that's just one of the pithy little ones, of which we've got 100 of them. Mm-hmm. And it just seemed like, oh, that was a good correction. And typical, because it's YouTube, if you don't make it like a call-out video, nobody's going to care. And I thought it was rather generous to the both Doctor and John there, because I don't think they're bad people. I just think they're wrong on this one. And then I don't know, everybody else just freaked out around it. I'm like, guys, slow down. Because that's the point. Everybody who comes in to the red pill, they always have, how do I get her back? How do I get my wife back? And their field reports for single guys always start with there's this girl. Mm-hmm. And then right there's the implication of ownership. And you got to kind of quash that right off. Mm-hmm. And I think and trads do it, feminists do it, and MGTOWs do it. They always assume, the only people who assume women have agency are red pillars like us. Mm-hmm. They're a girl. She can do what she wants, right? Mm-hmm. You can't change that. So what you can change is how you react to it. And that's essentially the core of this. Yeah. She's not yours, it's just your turn is the Serenity Prayer written by Gen X guys.
Right. Yeah, I saw this and I've addressed this before, but not the saying itself, but more the non-exclusivity stuff. Because people throw rocks at me for plate theory. They think that when I talk about, plate theory, dating non-exclusively, having, a roster of girls, being, just basically playing the field. Right. Yeah. And people hate me for it because I'm saying, look, I'm just telling you to do what women are doing already because it's a more efficient way of really dating. I mean, you're dating You're dating multiple people. You're not just jumping from one serial, like you're a serial monogamous. You're not jumping from one monogamous situation to another monogamous situation. And guys always wonder why they get suicidal and why they have all these, why they can't, I can't stop thinking about her. I can't stop dreaming about her. I can't, that kind of stuff. I can't stand the thought of her being with another guy. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill her. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill whoever. And it's like, okay, well, let's analyze this for a second. The reason why you feel that way is because you feel a sense of ownership.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've read this essay. It was kind of like I don't want to call it a sleeper essay because I still remember it and I thought it was good. But I wrote an essay once about the title of it is called A Sense of Ownership. And I saw this one video about how human beings will develop a sense of ownership about certain material things. So if you look at like a kid in his security blanket or a little boy in his tricycle or whatever it is, like they made a comparison to children, but it also applies to adults too. And one of the things that I thought was really fascinating about this is that even if you take the kid's tricycle and you throw it away and you bring a new one that looks it's exactly the same. You buy another one from Walmart. It's the exact same model, exact same color, everything tricycle as the one you threw away. The kid will reject it because he had a sense of ownership over the original one. He invested himself like emotionally in some way, or that's why I call it a sense of ownership. And so I kind of explored the idea of like, why it is that guys get possessive. I've written at least 4 different essays about possessiveness in men and in women too. And why it is that we tend to develop this sense of like this cup is my cup, right? There's only one just like it. It's just the one that I have. And if you become sentimental about certain things. Now, it's not all things, right? It's not like you're sentimental about like a fork or a spoon or something that you can replace very easily. And I think that once children develop a more a better way of like abstract thinking.
Right.
When you turn into abstract thinking, then it becomes something a little bit different, but we still invest ourselves sentimentally in certain things. And I thought that was fascinating because sometimes even animals will do this. Higher primates will do this.
Food aggression.
Dogs, mammals. Yeah, they will do that. Like we will develop some sort of, this is my stuff. And even if you replace it with exactly the same thing, it's not the same thing. There was also another phenomenon. I forget that there's a proper name for it, but in child psychology, if a kid, this is an example, if a kid likes macaroni and cheese, and they're used to eating like the regular macaroni, right? And you give them shells and cheese, and they don't want to eat it. It's the same exact thing, but it doesn't look like what they recognize and what they associate with mac and cheese.
Oh, I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember the name, but I know it's like because autism autism that amps it up to 12, where if you move the car 10 degrees.
Right. And as a child develops more a better capacity for abstract thinking, then you can introduce animal shapes for mac and cheese or what is it, rotatelli and cheese.
Yeah. But it's not the mac and cheese that he's hooked on. It's the symbol.
It's the symbol. Yeah, it's the association.
Yeah, it's like Plato's cave was like a great analogy for it, where you're not actually seeing the people dancing, you're seeing the shadows on the wall, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, and it's just fascinating to me that's part of developing a capacity for abstract thought. And I would argue that depending on what it is that we emotionally invest ourselves in, we kind of revert back to the time before we were able to say, well, this is this and this is this. This is mac and cheese and this is like animals and cheese or whatever, that kind of stuff. So we developed this, maybe it's a hindbrain thing. Maybe it's just something that's like sort of root level where we have to defend territory or we have to defend property. We have to defend our families, our children and our wives or our husbands, whatever it is, or our animals. Like we have to defend what's ours. Yeah. But to get to that point, we have to have sort of this sense of ownership about what is ours.
And that's the problem. That's why I talk about sexual diabetes, like making the analogy that sugar used to be so good for us because you had to chew on a sugarcane root for an hour back in the day to have enough energy to hunt. But today, it's so easy to get chocolate cake. You're basically taking that instinct, amping it up to 12, and now it's actually killing us. And this is, I call it sexual diabetes, and you're absolutely right. It's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's part of the yeah. Thanks, Sam Whiskey. It's part. I think at least part of this, or the desire for men to own women, is there's that sense of ownership first of all, and then also I think there's a protector dynamic. I think men have an instinctual need to protect women and children, and I say this in the sense that it's instinctual.
Yeah, it gives us purpose.
Well, like for instance, whenever there's like a mass shooting event, like the one in Las Vegas in 2017, you had guys who would put themselves bodily in front of women who
they didn't even know.
They didn't even know to take a bullet for that woman. And it's not that like they didn't have the time to sit there and go, should I do this or should I not do this? It's just instinctual. They just
came natural.
Same thing. You can find examples of this all over the place. Like the what was it? The
Israeli army.
Yeah, Israeli army.
That's why girls aren't frontline troops anymore, because they found it wasn't because they weren't capable. It's because guys kept sacrificing themselves to save them once they got under fire, and it was causing too much casualties.
Yeah, but that because they have a sense. It's just what I've called the savior schema. Yeah. They want to be able to say, like, because I think there's something instinctual in men that says, if I save her life, she will appreciate me and breed with me. She will have kids with me.
Yeah, and that's basic Evo Psych, where the tribes that did do that back in the Cro-Magnon days or whatever days it was, the ones that did do that had more chicks, and more chicks meant more babies, and more babies meant better survival.
Right.
So it's not even that we like honed it as an art. It's just the ones that didn't have this died off, and we're what's left.
So the possession part of this, I think, is something that's instinctual. I think it's something that's kind of like binary to just like it's our mental firmware. It's our evolved mental firmware to do those things. We'll do the same thing for kin affiliation or kin altruism as well. So we will you will die for our mate. We'll die for our children. And then by order of degrees, we'll consider whether we'll die for like our nephew or our niece or our best friend, or, and on down the sort of altruistic, tribalistic hierarchy, I guess.
Yeah. So, this isn't new either, by the way. Bruce Lee was saying the same thing when he was talking guys about to like be instinctively about hitting. He goes, now think if somebody wants to punch your friend, and then you'll think about it. He goes, now pretend somebody wants to hit your mom, and just bam, it's out. So, like, it's been known for, that was in the 60s and 70s. So that's like 50, 60 years now. So you're not exactly plowing new ground. And that's the part that's kind of annoying. Like, that's, how many generations are 70 years? 3 generations?
At least.
3 generations. And they're walking up like you just came with tablets off the Mont. I'm like, come on, dudes.
Yeah.
Get with the program.
I know. And this is nothing that, the reason I'm starting with, like, the idea that we can actually own something that's material, I think that's sort of intrinsic just to the human experience. Like, this guitar is my guitar. I can go buy one exactly like that guitar off of eBay, and if this one is mine, though, right? It's gonna be the exact same thing, but this one is mine.
Yeah, it'll feel different though,
and it will feel different, or they'll be like, oh, this is okay. Or you have those, even if you're okay with that, there's a period of adjustment where you go, okay, well, it doesn't play as nice as the other one, but. And it's all psychological. It's just like you sort of like psychosomatic, like you're trying to make things to go along with that. So there is, I believe, a sense of ownership. I think most human beings will form something like that, particularly when it comes to like resources. Like, that food's my food, that food's your food. This is my hunting grounds, that's your hunting grounds. This is my territory. These are my wives, those are your wives, whatever. Yep. And so there's this sense of, and it's particularly for men, I think. I know that what does he say? I'm on here saying, well, what are women's instincts about the fact that men consider women as their territory or treasure or what? Okay, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I forget who said this. Maybe it was I think it might have been Royce, or it might have been Pook. I'm not really sure which. But women want to submit to a worthy man's vision, to sort of imprint upon the strongest alpha male that they know.
Right.
You and I've talked about this. I know I talked about this on Donovan's show a while back. When a woman is, she starts changing her likes to something that you're like, where did that come from? Like, she starts getting into Swedish death metal, and you're like, wow. And so most likely, the guy that she likes is into Swedish death metal, right?
Yeah, it's one of the easiest like red flags to find out if a girl starts picking up a random new hobby out of nowhere. You're like, huh?
Yeah. And that's a good point. because and we use this example too. So if you're like a Patriots fan and suddenly she starts liking the Raiders, it's usually probably because she met a guy and that's the guy that she's imprinted on as sort of the most dominant guy that she knows. Sometimes it might be her dad, sometimes it might be her brother, like one of her older, more masculine, more dominant brothers. It doesn't matter. I'm not talking about romantic involvement here. I'm just talking about whoever is the most dominant alpha male that they know, that's who they tend to imprint on. And in some ways that's good, because usually men will mate guard.
Yeah.
Fathers will technically altruistically will guard their daughters, or guard their sons for that matter too, but they will guard
You'd
them.
think in the thought apocalypse that'd still be the case, but here we are.
Yeah. So it's, and to answer your question there, was it Amar? I think is your name. Yeah. Amar. So yeah, it's not like mate guarding is one thing. Like, okay, that's my woman. I'm going to guard. I know she's like in heat. I know she's in estrus and I got to keep her here. I got to, that's where that possessive nature comes from. Sometimes it can get obsessive. Sometimes you can even like write it into religion. It gets so obsessive. So there is that need to have that person, but it's not so much, there's a sense of ownership, but it's also a sense of protecting your investment, your parental investment in that woman. It's for men, the existential fear for men is to get cuckolded, right? To have a woman or a wife or whatever it is to go off, get laid, come back, and has the kid that you think is yours, and you are the one who is investing your effort, your resources, your time, your money, whatever it else is, into that child. Unbeknownst to you. Now, prior to DNA testing and all that, it was that's
does he look like you, and was anybody else around? That's all you had to go on. And everybody, that's why I think, was it you that said that, where as soon as babies happen, it's always like the family on her side will always tell you that's the compliment. He looks so much like you.
Like you.
It's like an instinctive way for us to like, hey, don't eat this one, right?
Right. And this is I'm gonna get real Evo psych here, but like that's also, I think, a fail safe against infanticide, because if the father finds out that the child isn't his, then he loses his shit, right? That's when he goes off. And that's what most higher order male mammals will do. Whether it's a lion or a silverback gorilla or whatever, it will go in, it will kill the children of the rival. Now, human beings, I know, are not.
No, we're civilized now.
Yeah, we're civilized.
We haven't done that in years.
But we do have ways that kind of infanticide manifests, or the need to prevent that is still part of our kind of mental firmware. It's like our subroutines that are going on. So yes, I agree with you. I think that's one of the reasons, like the first thing out of women's mouths is, oh, he looks so much like a father. Oh, look, it's daddy's girl, daddy's boy, whatever it is. Just so that you start out by like sort of tilling the field, so that if the kid really isn't yours. Yeah. I think one of the funniest things about this, or maybe it's not so funny now, is that in the age of like DNA testing, like 23andMe, that now this is starting to come to light, or we can test for genetic diseases. And so if the father has something and the children don't have something, well, then mom's got some splaining to do.
Yeah. Or I know they used to have it. There was a kid talking about in school, they used to do like, what's your blood type and what's your parent blood type, like a way of like getting into science. Right. But they were finding too many kids were doing that and finding that they couldn't be dad because of the different blood types.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was neat. And then obviously Canadian Medical Association had that exact same thing. Now that these tests are becoming available, ethically, what do you do if the test shows that the kid's not the dad's? And they decided, well, it's too damaging, so we can't, the do no harm thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's like illegal in Canada for a doctor to disclose this without the consent of mom. Mm-hmm. Kind of scary. France, I think, just full on outlawed it.
Outlawed it. You can't even get a DNA test in France. As far as I know, you can't get I read anyways, you can't get fathers cannot get a DNA test unless I think the life of the child is in danger or something like that. But and the same thing applies in the United States, although I don't know that there are any laws on the book, but I do know that as far as family law is concerned, whoever's name that the woman puts on the birth certificate, they presume that's the father, unless the father contests it within a certain amount of time.
Rules of Dad, correct me on this one too. I used to think it was just like from the time you sign it, you have a ticking date for that. It's from the time you find out. So which is good, right? But that's the problem with all these things. Like there's a legal logical set of steps you can use to rectify it,
Mhm.
but they take effort. And if you're at least the smallest bit able to be shamed, completely
Oh,
bypasses this.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like society or the social order steps in. So it gets to the point where you feel bad about even asking, is the kid mine?
Yeah.
I did this one show, and I think what was the guy's name was Jay something or other. Jay Cook, I think is the guy's name, this kid's name. And I think he was somewhere like I think he was 19, 20, 21 years old. And he was part of this. I guess some girl had tried to convince him that the baby was his. And come to find out that it's not. He went and got the DNA test and found out that it wasn't his. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, that's just so he can generate, more views and more subs and everything. Oh, okay, maybe. But it's not an uncommon story. And then, of course, even after that, the guy was shamed into being the father or being the godfather or being the guy who's going to sort of step up and support that kid, even though the woman tried to commit basically birth fraud on him. And but the social order encourages him to push down and to repress his own natural innate sense of his need to know paternity.
Yeah, well, what choices do we have? We either have somebody has to pay for it. Government's not going to pay for it, so they're going to make you pay for it. The alternative is an infanticide structure in place. And like I said, I don't think anybody has the stomach to go that direction. I don't either. I don't think I hate to say it, but it's the best worst option. Which sucks for guys, but what are you going to do, right?
Right. So we've established, I think, that there is a need for men to want to own women. And I think owning is probably the term that really grates against, certainly against women's sort of, sense of self today, and really since 1965. So there's this, that innate need for men to know paternity, to know that I love you, you love me, and therefore you're mine. We write songs about that. Like you belong to me, you belong to me. Remember that?
I was listening to that in the car.
No, exactly. I mean, we'll write songs, we'll write poems about it, we'll write romantic, sappy, stupid comedies about it, where the even was it Royce was saying, a woman wants to submit to a worthy man's vision, wants to submit to a guy who is, he's the guy. And it was also, I think it was Pook said this was that a woman would readily share an alpha male rather than be saddled with a faithful beta. So it's not so much like when we talk about it's not your turn, or it's just your turn, or she's not yours, it's just your turn. It's not so much about defeatism, rather than sort of hanging on loosely to this whole thing, let her come to you almost, because that's really where it has to start. Because when I talk about genuine desire, how if you can't negotiate genuine desire, and if you are, all you are doing is sort of negotiating obligated compliance. She has to want to be there. She has to want to have your children. She has to want to be married to you. She has to want, you're the most dominant alpha male that she knows. She has to want to be into Swedish death metal, right? Yeah. She has to want to there has to be a genuine desire there. And if I talked about this in the possessiveness essays that I've talked about before. When guys get overly possessive of the women that they're with, it's usually because they, on some level of consciousness and their peripheral awareness, they know that woman is not as into them as they are into her. And so they try to compensate for that by this really kind of overbearing sense of possession. And that also comes back to the idea of patriarchy being sort of the natural outflow, I guess, or the natural extension of how men and women are complements for each other. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about, patriarchy is this horrible, tyrannous, but we're not your property kind of thing. Back in let's say 1965, really it started in the beginning of feminism, but let's just go back to militant feminism right after the sexual revolution. Women didn't want to be owned. So when women don't want to take your last name, that's a sign. Or they want to hyphenate their last name. That means I'm not 100% sure that I want to be with this guy, that this guy is good, that this is going to work out. I'm hedging my bets by not doing this.
And the funny thing on that too, if that's the kind of guy who's that's fine, I wish you luck on the next guy who'll do that, those would probably go away. Now, I know it's like that's the constant thing, like whose fault is it? I don't really care whose fault it is. I'm talking about solutions. There is so many, same thing as like the paternity one you just talked about before. A guy doesn't want to be considered an ass because he asked like to get a paternity test. Well, the alternative is you end up being taken advantage of raising somebody else's kids. So guys are so worried about other people not liking them. I mean, and it's based on a fear of abandonment, whatever. So worried about that they're willing to essentially turn into a genetic dead end because of it. Like, imagine the level of, I don't want to say brainwashing, but the amount of like social pressure required. It's like learned helplessness to the nth degree. I'm absolutely baffled. Like I'm sure this was a way that helped us survive when we were younger in like caveman societies and that, but like just to see it have lasted this long without some like major event culling the herd is just beyond me. It really is sometimes. That's why I love chatting with this stuff about you.
Yeah. Okay, so and John, I see in the chat there. I'd have you on, but I kind of want to just keep this between the two of us right now. But you make a good point, and the point is I'm getting to that actually right now, which is in this social order since the rise of militant feminism and gynocentrism that came in the wake of the sexual revolution. Today we have at least 4 generations. What do we say? 3 generations in 70 years? At least 4 generations, I would say, of women who have been brought up on the idea that they are strong, independent women. I don't need no man. I don't need you for money. I don't need you for support. I don't need you for provisioning. The beta buck side of hypergamy, which is the 3 Ps, right? The protection, provisioning, and parental investment. Those 3 things that women need for long-term security. This gynocentric social order has taught at least 4 generations of women that that's already done, or they can handle that themselves. Or we've gotten to a point where we can get these highly rewarding jobs in, like social fields and we can get a lot of money for. We make our own damn money. You go, girl. We see this all the time, and it's become only amplified that much more in the internet/social media age, where we see it every single day.
It's not even that. We're trying to make it a reality. Like, I always loved, and I hate the analogy here, but do you remember when the agricultural revolution started? That was when like jobs started. Once you were able to grow food, you had a surplus, and that's when you could have people that did something other than hunt. And then pottery and prostitution were like the first 2 trades, essentially. We're kind of at that point now where automation has detached productivity from labor. It was been attached for the longest time until oil basically came in. Now it's 420 hours of labor for every gallon of oil. Absolutely crazy. But that's the thing now. When we're saying like, I don't need no man, we are working our best to make that as true as we can, which is kind of fascinating. It's almost like
manifest destiny.
Yeah, we're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the whole point of this, though. That's the whole point of the red pill, is to adapt. So this is what's happening now. It's a technological process. It's not reversible. That's why the trad stuff's never coming back. So now that you have this stuff in here, what do you do about it? And back to the point of she's not yours, it's just your turn. You're absolutely right. It's a heuristic to help a guy temper his instincts to the point where they're helpful to him again. And yeah, not because we have it, like you said, we have it in our DNA to want to protect and have an ownership, or at least the act as if we have ownership over women. Now, if we can temper that to be only used for the kind of woman that's invested as much as, like, for example, your wife, 23 years at this point, you're probably acting as close to a man that owns his woman as one can or should
in this state. Yeah.
So the issue is not us saying, oh, she's not yours, man. And then the guy's like, all right, screw this bitch.
Right.
At this point, we're fighting against instinct. So like the best you're going to get is a guy who at least like gives it a second thought before he throws that OnlyFans girl some money,
Well, okay. So you have to we need to rewind the tape here as to where that saying came from, because you're right. It's 100% right. It was an adaptation. Because when the early pickup artists, and it was the early pickup artists who came up with this was something you will actually find this. I think you'll find this in Neil Strauss's The Game. She's not yours, it was just your turn, bro. That's what like Mystery and RSD and all the rest of these guys, they had to teach these guys how to unlearn that which they have learned. Now, we have to look at the Pareto principle here once again. So you've got 20% of guys who are the highly desirable alphas, and I'm about to address this here John, just a second. So you've got guys who are again, I know I'm just loosely doing this, but here's the deal. When you've got a society and when you've got a social order, let's just say that is based on the 80-20 rule, that means 80 to 85% of guys are going to be the low desirability guys, the low SMV guys, the guys that women will pass up or who are invisible right now, particularly because of the social media age, who they don't even consider. They don't even think of them. Mm-hmm. And so when like back in the early 2000s, now remember, these are the guys who came in from like the late 90s trying to learn how to get laid. That's all they were trying to do. All they wanted to do is learn the scripts and learn the behaviors and learn, I mean, maybe a little bit like why those things worked, but primarily what did they have to do to get themselves to the next level, to get with their dream girls, right?
Right.
And I think that a lot of these guys were of the newbies, the guys who were learning game from Mystery and when PUA was sort of in its infancy. They really wanted to use that game to get their dream girl. They just wanted to use that game so they could satisfy their blue pill ideal, which is still based on monogamy, still based on the idea of owning a woman, having that woman love you as much as you love her, and we're all going to settle down and have 2.5 kids and a golden retriever in the front yard. So, yeah,
get a good dog, get good noobs.
Dog, I know. And so that's that dream girl thing. Well, now I'm up to a different caliber of women. Like if you're only able to let's just say you're a 6 and you only have the social skills or whatever to get with 4s and 5s, and suddenly you're getting with a 7. That 7 seems like the best woman in the world that you could possibly get with. And you go, okay, guys, I got my best girlfriend. I'm out. I don't need the game anymore. I don't need to spin plates anymore. I'm sick of the game.
I got that sofa problem solved.
Yeah.
Until she blows up your apartment.
Exactly.
I love that part of Fight Club, by the way. I love referencing it.
And so many guys started doing this. There had to be like a lot of guys felt like sort of an ethical conflict or like a personality conflict when they're going when PUAs are saying spin plates, when they're saying date non-exclusively, have a roster of girls. So you've got like 4 or 5 girls that you could, like, it's Saturday night. Who do I want to get with? Well, I'm working this new plate, but if that falls off, if that doesn't happen, I got the confidence in the options that I already have 3 or 4 other girls that I can go get with if I want to go and do that. That was sort of a fail safe, let's say, against like things like one-itis, which was another term that they coined, which of course has its roots in the soulmate myth. Mm-hmm. Because when guys caught feelings, when they got all wrapped up in one girl, it was usually because they had not killed that old beta blue pill conditioned self, because that's what they really wanted. So it's like, okay, well, I've got all these girls now, and oh, she's the best one. And okay, guys, thanks a lot. I'm out. I'm done. And they get with that one girl, and then they realize that because they're not technically red pill, they know game very well, but they don't know women's nature very well. They end up getting divorced. They end up having, kids out of wedlock. They end up ruining their lives as a result of not really following game to its natural, end, which is red pill awareness. So when you've got these guys that are doing all of this,
who, by the way, first generation of MGTOWs were these guys coming out of that meat grinder.
Right.
Like to have that pointed out.
Yeah. The guys for whom it didn't work, or they were just too socially maladapted, that they're like, oh, this will never work with me. I'm going to be, let's start True Force Loneliness, which was actually MGTOW and Doomer and Black Pill for, 2009? Is that when that came out? The Forever Alones and 2000 and the True Force Loneliness guys who went on to form like PUA Hate and Slut Hate after that. And yeah, yada, yada, yada. But again, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing to remember to avoid that kind of despondency, let's say, in women, is to say, okay, impermanency. She's not yours. It's just your turn. And so what I think has happened now is we've sort of forgotten what the reason for that was, because the early pickup artists said, hey, look, keep women at arm's distance. Don't feel bad about dating multiple women. Don't feel bad about running multiple sets. Don't feel bad about, you can do this. The first thing I get, and I remember back in
I'll bet you do.
2008, 2010, 2012, every single guy, whenever it came to plate theory, they were like, oh, I could never do that. I could never keep up. I could never, they'll find out about each other, man. And the reason why that was such an anxiety for them is because he still thought in terms of, I got to get the one.
Well, that's nice guy stuff too, right? Because that's
girl.
They never walk that through. Oh, they'll find out about each other. if you follow that through, the implication is, and then they won't like me anymore. It's that abandonment fear. And that's the part that I love Glover. I know Glover, we got like a love-hate relationship with him, but the one thing he nailed flat out is like failed parenting strategies when a kid is younger, where mom, and it's very easy as a parent to say, I'm not going to love you unless you do this. The kids will behave because, you know, if mom leaves, I'm going to starve in a ditch, so I better make her happy. But then that's the problem. Without a dad there, for a lot of guys, there is no dad there to kind of temper that with a little bit of self-worth, a little bit of less need of validation, some self, you know, actualization, whatever the kid needs. He takes that mental model now that it's in his limbic brain and he carries it over to adulthood. Now, he doesn't know he's still that little boy asking mom not to leave him, but his limbic brain doesn't just tells him, like, this is what you feel. And he can't articulate it because he learned it when he was 3 years old. And that's where you're in that exact situation. And that's why I loved how Pickup kind of went from, it was just about sleeping with women, then it moved over to Red Pill, and then it started adding some self-actualization in there. Well, why did these guys break down once their wives left them? Well, it just turns out they got too attached to it, and then the psychology started coming in, and we realized it's that same principle. It's almost like the scientific method for sexual dynamics. You notice that? It's not so much that we have all the answers, but we're developing a good enough system that once we run into problems, we have a way of solving it.
Right.
And that heuristic is one of them. The she's not yours, it's just your turn.
Exactly. And you're asking the right questions too.
Yeah.
Like that's the best thing, I think. And that's why I keep coming back to calling it a praxology, because everyone wants to make the Red Pill an ideology. When you make it an ideology, then yes, it becomes about the one. It becomes about possessing that girl. It becomes about, like, you know, reaching your higher self, because you need a girl who's on the same wavelength as you. And now you're gonna use the Red Pill to sort of justify your bad decision making, like your inability to achieve that.
You take the man out of the equation, which is exactly what it's meant not to do.
yeah, exactly. So I think we've pretty much established where the idea came from. But when we look at a social order, a gynocentric social order of women that says, okay, guys, we're independent from you. The ideal is for us to be just these autonomous, self-fulfilling things that have no need for anything outside themselves. It's remember, you'll hear women still to this day say this: "You're enough. You are enough." Like you as like some kind of like
enough for somebody or enough for me.
Yeah, some kind of motivational or inspirational kind of, you know, meme that you'll see on Facebook or something. Like, it's very hippy dippy, like new agey kind of.
The cope stuff. Yeah,
coping. Yeah,
that's why it's always single moms and divorced chicks throwing that crap out there.
Yeah, you go, girl, you're enough. But yet when those girls get to be 38, 39, 40 years old, then suddenly they go, what the hell have I been doing? And you know what? We got guys like guys who are just like, oh man, yeah. Was it alpha agents of righteous karma? Like, yeah, you're getting yours now. You know, you're getting your comeuppance. And it's like, so this sense of revenge, or this pro-revenge thing. See, they all get it in the end. Ha ha.
See, I've never got that either.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, if I had to attach an emotion to seeing this stuff play out, I'd say almost pity, but more indifference. It's like. Like, it's hard for me. Maybe it's just because I'm getting jaded over the years, but I just have a hard time reacting to it anymore. I don't know how you react to it. Is it more like pity, or just something you see that needs fixing? Or
I have changed.
Do you hate women, basically? Is what I'm asking.
No, I don't. Actually, well, as you might guess, I've written several essays about, like, the pro-revenge essay and why it's such a big deal, why it's such a I don't know, like today, the fact that there's even something called pro-revenge, like, as a tag for YouTube videos or for, like, Reddit subs and stuff like that. And
that's your own fault for going to Reddit.
Yeah, I know. But I think there's this need on the part of guys who have felt so powerless for a long time. Because when guys are younger, when we're in our late teens, even our early teens, when we're in our teenage years through maybe our mid 20s, until we start to mature into, like, our real sexual market value, most guys, and particularly this generation of guys right now, they feel very powerless. So when you see a woman on OnlyFans and she looks like a 7.5, and she's turning, $60,000 a month by showing off her body, then yeah, that seems like a really powerful person. Like, so like that, you can't touch that girl. You can't get to that girl. You can pay her so she'll pay attention to you, but what's the power dynamic in that? That's exchange. And I think that when that girl finally hits 30, when that girl finally hits 36 or 38, and you will see her do that, because now we can look back. I can go back and see all the girls I used to know in high school on their Facebook pages, and look how they've decayed, and look how they've got fat and got babies and gray hair and wrinkles and all the stuff that happens to human beings. And you can go back and you can look at that and you can feel real good about yourself. And sometimes I do. I'm not going to say I don't, right? I think I'm in a pretty good position compared to the people who I was, dealing. But the problem with that is then you're sort of basing your self-identity on like being better than people that, who cares? Like, what's the point, Mm-hmm. And so I've written at least 2 essays on revenge, pro-revenge, and then there's another one, revenge and respect, or revenge and regret. And again, like the idea that that revenge should be some sort of motivating force for guys is kind of a waste of time. Because when you get to a certain point, like when you get into your peak sexual market value years, the people in your high school, who cares? Yeah, that's their thing,
Oh,
if that's what's going to define you, then you need to go back and sort of like start over again. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when I went to my 20-year one, I didn't have any chips on my shoulder from bullying or any crap like that. For the most part, I had forgotten about it so much that I was just asking questions to try and get it back to piece together. There was a couple people that, like, because I had a bunch of stuff from my travels around the world and that, where they kind of took that as a flex and were getting a little mad at me and like pinging off me during the night. But it was never anybody who was successful that I had seen from high school, and there wasn't many. They had a much better attitude going in. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's being successful removes regret, I guess, or if removing regret helps you build success. But it's definitely something that you don't want to have long term.
Well, it's also because I know a lot of guys who say, well, and this is common for guys, living well is the best revenge. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, fine. But if you are living well because revenge motivated you to live well, are you really living well? Or are you
that's my thought. It's like the frame of it, right? It's still, you're focusing on the other person. And back to the she's not yours, it's just your turn. That's one of the reasons I like it. And the reason that, and I know Bulldog's in the chat, hey man, the part I disliked about it. Now, I don't know what is in his heart. I just know what I saw in the video. But that's the one part of the critique I hate, is that if you take it from a lens of what's good for a woman or the women or women in general, then yeah, it sounds like a horrible phrase, but there's only that one little thing you have to do, and then it all clicks into place. Just treat, like you said, the masculine point of origin. Treat yourself as the central focus of that statement or any of the statements. And now it makes sense. Okay, so now it's not about her, it's about me. The sentence even starts like that. She's not yours. And then it's like, okay, so when I put her as the focus of the sentence, it's bad. It's just your turn. And then it switches to you. And now it's a much more palatable message. It's an easier one to understand. You're going to have instincts to get hooked on a girl. There's no stopping that. There's no pithy phrase out there that can fix it. But like I said before, and I know I'm repeating myself, at least then you're tempering your emotions so you're not stepping on your own dick.
I in my latest essay, that's the first one on the rational male right now. I start this way. I'm glad we started talking about like the revenge issue, because I think what happens is when this generation of guys who are like the doomer generation, the black pill generation, the guys who want to take the red pill and say I'm never gonna get married, I'm never gonna find a girl, I'm never gonna do this, I'm never. I just keep them over there and I'm over here. When they hear it's not your turn, or she's not yours, that's the part they focus on. She's not yours. She was never yours. It's just your turn. They don't care about just your turn. They only care about she's not yours, because that separation between guys and women is something that has happened for a long time as a result of this sort of strong, independent woman.
Yeah, it's codified in law. It's not even like if you believe it, it's true. No, it's written down. It's signed and everything.
So they focus on, and this is where I think guys like John Sonmez lose the narrative, because they see that these guys will go, or even like Dr. Sean Smith, they'll see this and they'll go, oh, that's a trope. Those guys shouldn't be taught. They shouldn't be saying that. They shouldn't be fomenting that and encouraging that in society right now, when they don't know what the the real history of where that comes from, like impermanence, non-exclusivity, spinning plates, that kind of stuff, keeping women at arm's distance, because that was the adaptation that worked best. So that you're not doing that. So you're not investing. You're keeping. It's not that you don't invest in the women that you're either having sex with or you're trying to keep in your rotation kind of thing. It's not that you're going to invest in them to some degree, unless she's like a friends with benefits kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and even then, I mean, really, what's friends with benefits? Friends with benefits is sex without the emotional investment.
Yeah.
That's really what that boils down to. And you know what being in the friend zone is?
The exact opposite.
It's all of the investment, all the emotional investment with none of the sex. So though, like if you have friends with benefits, that girl is basically the equivalent of being like in the friend zone or being the emotional tampon kind of guy. So if you're investing all of your emotion and you're not getting it, and there's no sex involved, there's no genuine desire involved, you're basically a fuck buddy of that girl because she's getting off on the idea of having you there as sort of this emotional outlet, while she goes and has sex with the guy who's not going to invest in her emotionally, that she can't lock down. You're only fulfilling the two sides of hypergamy if you're going to be the friend, if you're going to be the emotional tampon, if you're going to be the ally, the male feminist, right? If you're going to be the guy that's identifying with her all the time, guess what? You're the functional equivalent of a fuck buddy.
Yeah.
For women.
And why would anybody like that? Like, just from basic bare bones perspective of value. You're not valuing your time and attention because you're giving it away for free with nothing expected in return. And everybody knows, like, do you treat a car better that you own or one that you rent or one that you were gifted? It's one of those things. Like, if you're valuing it at zero, you can't expect the other person to value it. Even, and I'm taking it from the female perspective here. His attention was so cheap, I didn't have to offer him anything for it. So why would I? And she's not saying that as like a calculated decision. That's her limbic brain talking. Because what is it? Some of the dark triad attributes that they find are very attractive. Guys who are aloof, guys who act like they don't want them. And there's reasons for it. I won't get into them here, but essentially, everything that you do that has you act congruently with having a lot of value ends up being attractive for you in that alpha sense, that dopamine hit. So at very least, not only are you acting with your own best interests, but it turns out that aligns perfectly with the kind of thing that women find attractive. So I have a hard time reconciling, either from the male perspective or the female perspective, how this adaptation we've developed is a bad thing. You know what I mean? Right. It's keeping women at arm's distance. I keep saying that, when what was it? I think it was plate theory number 5. I have 6 articles on that. There's a series. It's a 6-part article. 5 is a girl's game, and women are innate plate spinners. They have to be. They have to judge what they have to find. It's all about quality. It's finding the guy who is the best that they can do. That's the hypergamous doubt. So yeah, when you apply that, what I think what gynocentric society has done is it has turned women and men into independent. Like men are on here and women are over here, and women don't really need you. They want you, but they don't really need you. And the innate complementarity that used to exist between men and women has been socially divided. So we say, women, you don't need no man unless he has all these things, and even then he's your equal and not above you. And on top of that, really, you only need the top 20% guy. So forget about all the guys who are the 80%ers right now, because they don't count. They are invisible. And you behoove yourself better to share a top tier alpha with other women than to ever bother getting with these guys. In fact, I've said this before, is that women hate beta males. They hate beta males so thoroughly that they will go to school for 4 to 8 years to get these these corporate gigs in soul crushing jobs, so they don't have to marry the beta male. Yeah. So they don't have to be dependent on that guy and compromise that. They would rather get into a position where they would at least perceptually believe that beta buck side of hypergamy is taken care of, so they can focus on the alpha seed side of it. I want to get to this really quick because Alex, this is actually a pretty pertinent question here. He says, hey Rollo, imagine a man with a girl who hasn't been with another guy yet and is a virgin. Okay, you're a fantasy virgin bride. What do you think are the odds of her monkey branching to a better guy, assuming you keep your frame? Okay,
So I think, first of all, you have to figure out, why is she still a virgin at this point? Is it because of is it a cultural thing? Is it a religious thing? Is it like even maybe just as personal conviction? Don't know, but there's probably a reason why she's that way. Because I would argue this. I would argue that there are more guys who are, who want to be virtuous and save themselves for marriage than there are women. Because we live in a state right now, at least in Western societies, we live in a state right now that empowers women to the point where there's no incentive for them not to have sex outside of marriage before they meet you and then want to settle down. I think we already know that. So what's the odds of her monkey branching? This is where a lot of MGTOWs kind of lose it, where a lot of black pill doomers kind of lose it, because they think that it is 100% she's going to do it. If she finds somebody that's better than you, she's going to do that. Well, remember, and this used to be one of the preconditions for no sex before marriage, is if she has less of an opportunity to ever involve herself in that by whatever social buffers there are, whether it's society or religion or whatever, and she can't engage in premarital sex, you are the guy who comes along and you're the most alpha guy she's ever been with. You're the only guy she's ever had sex with. When women have one partner, they report being happier in marriage. They have longer marriages. They have a lower incidence of divorce. The more sexual partners that a woman has, the higher the incidence of divorce, the higher the incidence of marital unhappiness. I can show you the stats, at least for as long as they were allowed to be collected, because they're not allowed to collect those stats anymore. But I can show you the stats where women are more unhappy as a result of having more sexual partners. Men, on the other hand, do not suffer from that, because men and women are different. We have different mating strategies. So what are the odds? Here's what you want me to say. You want me to say that they're very, very high, because today, OnlyFans, Facebook, Instagram, social media, blah, 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 blah. What is it? She has all these beta orbiters that can show up on her doorstep anytime, and she can get what she wants, when she wants, whenever she wants it. And what it says, and I've said this a million times in Misconceptions for Hypergamy, is not a straight jacket. There are a lot of different variables that go into this. So here's the thing.
Hypergamy is a good thing too, though. Well, I guess finish your thing. I'll go after.
Is she a virgin at 18, or is she a virgin at 30? Is she a virgin at 40? Because those women all have different priorities, and they all have different motivations and different incentives. So you can say, well, what if she's a virgin and you find her? What's the chances of her monkey branching? I don't know. What are her circumstances? What are her necessities? Why is she like that? That's what I mean by hypergamy is not a straitjacket. It always exists. It's always a subroutine that's running in women's back of their head. It's always, is he the best that I can do? And if you're the guy who she imprints on as the most alpha guy, who still maintains his frame, who still is the guy that she imprints upon, the guy who she wants to listen to Swedish death metal for, if you are that guy, and remember, you're not going to be the same guy. Let's just say, for sake of argument, you got married, you're 19, she's 18, she's a virgin, you get married, and things work out for you. Do you think you're going to be the same dude at 29 and she's going to be the same girl at 28? Probably not. So variables happen in those 10 years. Hell, they happen in 3 years. You're not the same person. So it depends.
One car accident can change you overnight.
Right. And what I think most guys lose the narrative about the hypergamy not being a straitjacket is that people change. I don't know how else to emphasize this anymore, because most guys will say what we were just saying in a minute. Well, women are going to hit the wall. Yeah, they are. And how do you think hitting the wall is going to change her hypergamy? How do you think that's going to change her impression of you if she says, well, I'm not as hot as I used to be, but I got a really good guy? Do you think, is she going to be more into you, or is she going to be more into the relationship, or is she going to be less into the relationship?
Well, that's kind of how it works too.
If she gets fat and single mommy, yeah, she's probably going to be a different person than she was if she's an 18-year-old virgin. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say wife goggles. Like, you know how you say men are the aspirational lovers?
Yeah.
It's actually something that it was like the red pill women. They're trying to do it on their side. Very power to them was the one thing they did that I really agree with, because we're the aspirational ones. You date a girl, 19, hottest, virgin, whatever. Come 30, you have those wife goggles. You actually don't see the wrinkles. You don't see the hair changing. She looks the same to you as she always did. Until something happens, zeroing out's a good example of what happens there. Slaps them off your face, and now you stop seeing this girl that you have that oxytocin attachment to. And now she's just like this 35-year-old mama too, kind of saggy. Fuck that bitch. And then you go off and do your thing, which is kind of where I think the op should have asked, but he didn't. He was asking for like a hedge against his own behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Not entirely true. Just realize like this stuff can come naturally, but, and to his point about, well, if she's a virgin, is that going to make things easier? Consider this. Hypergamy, Rollo's right, not a straitjacket. It's a feature, not a bug. What that means is a girl is fiercely loyal to one man at a time. Her best option. And if that's you, well, she does certain things. She doesn't go out in public to make herself available to other guys. I think they've even done a couple studies on this where they actually find that she rates men less attractive when she's with a man that she's really into, that she's getting those dopamine and the oxytocin from.
Right.
So whether she's a virgin or not is irrelevant. It's the behavior right in front of you that you can observe. Super clear. As long as you're looking for it and not looking through your own ego, you can see if you're her best option because she acts like you're her best option. Girls don't cheat and then come home and then treat you like the greatest guy ever. They always find something wrong with the dishes that you need to go washing. Because to them, their best option is the new swinging dick on the thing. You're that guy in her way, and so everything you do is wrong, and nothing is ever good enough. If you want to read more on it, Practical Female Psychology for the Practical Man talks about it in the chapter, the betaization of men. Really good read on that, and you understand how the process works. So I agree with Rollo. You're asking for like a shopping list of things. It doesn't really work that way. Just understand, she's a virgin. If she has tattoos, none of that matters. Just focus on her behavior right then and now, and you'll know your answer already.
Right. I'm gonna read this real quick because this is from the essay that I wrote here. I thought it was pretty good. So to the doomer mindset, she's not yours is a confirmation of women's duplicitous, fickle, or evil nature. That's not to say that the nihilistic perspective doesn't approach women's nature from an objective red pill understanding. They get it. They do. They see that. Like I keep telling you guys, well, how come Rollo doesn't like MGTOW? Well, I keep saying you got the diagnosis right. I just think that the medicine and the prescription is wrong. That's why. Okay. So hear me out here. So they think it justifies all of that. Okay. It just means they focus on surrendering to it and giving up on women. This confirmation bias also gets mixed up with the doomer understanding of hypergamy. Hypergamy resonates with them because it confirms the idea that all women will dump a guy at the first sign of his losing alpha frame or his alpha frame veneer, an act which is an act which he must constantly maintain in a world of endless options and online attention for women. Yes, I understand that. I understand they have more options today than ever before. I have talked about this till I'm blue in the face. I get it. Okay, that's the diagnosis. Let's move on. Okay,
is the argument that it's too hard now, or that it's harder than it used to be, and therefore it's not fair, and I shouldn't have to?
It's well, okay. Whenever I talk about like the global sexual marketplace, that's what I mean. Is like our sexual marketplaces. We have local sexual marketplaces, which is like here, Reno, Nevada, right, or wherever you are, where anybody else is. You have your social circle, your church, your school, your wherever it is, the local clubs that you go to, wherever it is. That's your local sexual marketplace. Women have access to a global sexual marketplace, meaning that they can get with a guy or get likes or get pictures or nudes or dick pics or whatever from a guy in Zimbabwe. Okay, that's the nature of how things are right now. Mm-hmm. So yes, does that give women a sort of overblown sense of ego? Yes, it does. Thank you. Can we move on? All right. So slip up once too often, and at the first opportunity, she's gone. It's the fallacy that hypergamy is a straitjacket and she's not yours.
What does he mean by slip ups too, though? That's the thing. Yeah. I hate when there's always these vague fungible container words. Nobody ever defines them. What's a slip up?
Right. It justifies the defeatism is what it does.
Is gaining 5 pounds a slip up?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you failed.
Is a slip up for getting to do the dishes? Sleeping with the secretary? What?
Here's the thing: is they believe this is that you will never find a lasting contentment with a woman because she holds first right of refusal in any relationship. That also keys in on the idea that she's not yours; it was just your turn. Even if you marry her, you're still screwed. Yes. Got it. Understood. Thank you. Let's move on. All right.
See, what is screwed? And I know I'm doing the Bill Clinton thing. What does screwed mean? A separation, like a divorce? If you're not together for 80 years, is your life a failure?
Well, what they do, and you and I have talked about this before, is like they have first right of refusal, ergo, in any intimate relationship,
Sure.
Briffelt's law. So they'll quote Briffelt's law, how a woman is the one who decides whether a relationship takes place or it doesn't. Great. I know.
Sounds like her job.
Okay, what we're doing is we're developing here a predictive framework. How can you either live, thrive, or completely opt out of that predictive framework? How are you going to get with a woman and start a family if you want, like I have guys that will tell me all the time, like, hey, Rollo, I'm 33, I'm 36. I really want to have kids, but I don't want to get with a used up, girl who had trains run on her or whatever. I don't want to get with a girl who was run through. Right. And so I'm here like trying to explain to them what they should look for, how they can go about working within that framework. And at the same time, I've got guys like saying, no, you'll never work. Forget it. You're doomed. You're doomed. Well,
yeah. How do they know?
But with that attitude, guess what? The whole human race is doomed. Because if men and women can't come together, if we can't find ways to be complementary to one another again, you stay over there on that side of the playground and I'll stay over here, and never the two shall meet unless we want to have sex. And those women are not going to have sex with you because you've already opted out, because clearly you've decided that you're going to be part of the 80%.
I was thinking back to your MGTOW thing. Do you remember there used to be a cult? I want to say it was in the 1800s, but it might have been in the 1900s, where they were worried about overpopulation. So they all agreed to like join this little Christian sect and then no reproduction whatsoever. It was obviously it didn't last too long because it couldn't.
Yeah, it's still around now. It's antinatalism.
Oh yeah. Honestly, this sounds almost like
sterilize yourself.
It sounds like the backyard wrestling version of the antinatalism sect.
Kind of
what it sounds like.
Yeah, kind of. But it's more like, well, I'm a loser anyways, and I'm never gonna make it, so I'm gonna opt out. Okay, I don't have a problem with that, and I don't think that the girls have the problem with that either. And I don't think that the guys who are still trying to, make things work out and actually have kids and procreate and all this other stuff, I don't think they have a problem with that either. We live in different times, but we're still the same smart monkeys that we've been for 200,000 years, 300,000 years.
Yeah. And that loser defeatism is not very helpful strategically either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about the resentment. You notice how, like, some of the more popular OnlyFans girls right now aren't like the supermodel 10s. It's always like a 4 out of 10 attainable girl.
Ones, yes, yeah.
I've noticed that these ones get the most hate because I think once you have that, and I hate saying it this way, but that defeatist mindset, well, like, I'm just going to be a loser and they have it too good and things are gone. When you see these things, they upset the narrative. And I think this builds a lot of anger in a lot of guys because no, ugly people aren't supposed to have good things happen. How is this for buying a house off her OnlyFans? Mm-hmm. Or how is this ugly guy, or like, what's the thing? Richest guy, Paul. He says he looks like, a sack of rusty doorknobs, but he still manages to pull. And everybody's like, they don't like seeing it because it has almost their like unjust world fallacy to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But right or wrong, it's clearly not a good strategy because the ways it plays out, it just builds resentment after resentment after resentment. So even if you are a loser objectively, and that's never going to change, taking that route is just not going to be helpful at all.
Self-defeating, yeah. Let me just finish this paragraph because I get into exactly that. So ergo, sooner or later, your turn will be over, and all of the effort, time, and emotion you invested in her will be for nothing, i.e., the sunk cost fallacy and the myth of relational equity. In fact, it might be even worse than nothing when you consider the opportunity cost of having bothered with trying to make her yours in the first place. Remember, we have a sense of ownership. We want to ensure our own paternity. Mm-hmm. We want to have that. We want to have that connection. We want to have that bond. We want to have that complementarity. So while the juice might taste really good in the short term, it's never really worth a squeeze in the long term. This conclusion is what really upsets success gurus because it's hard logic to refute, at least from their own man-up perspective. So that's that. I wanted to read that part because that's one side of the she's not yours, it's just your turn whole thing. Because what happens is you take a guy like John Sonmez or you take a guy like Dr. Sean, that's what they think is going on and they see it.
Well, to be accurate, I don't want to say like what they're thinking. I'll just say that's what he said in the video. I'm going strictly off of what's there. I don't want to I'm being as charitable as possible here because I think that's only fair. I know for a lot of guys there are trolls like that, so
Yeah, well, but it goes against the idea of be your best self, invest in women. Because right now, if you go and you say, well, she's not yours, it's just your turn, that seems very defeatist. And from that perspective, from the doomer, from the defeatist, from the nihilistic perspective, yeah, it certainly is, because it's preventing that mindset, that trope is preventing guys from actually saying, it's not even worth it. I'm never going to do it. Forget about it.
Do you know one thing they both have in common, the success porn and the doomer guys? There's this real fear of loss. They're just dealing with it in different ways. Right. The doomer side, it's like you're saying, I'm just going to lose, so why try? Meanwhile, the success guys are like, no, man, loss doesn't exist. They're just putting their head in the sand.
Yeah.
And I think why this one gets such a visceral reaction, because it's more ascribing to the heuristic of be okay with loss.
Right. And that sounds really Zen. I think you even said something like that. Like, it's very Zen. Like, you don't get, you need to remove desire from your life, or you need to, material things are not, they cut you down. I talked about this with Aaron Clary on Wednesday about how your things can own you. And it's like, but they're still, you want to own the guitar. You want to own the car. It's like, my shit is my shit, And so when I listen to Sonmez, and not just I don't want to just pick on Sonmez, because I hear a lot of other guys do the same thing. Like that new guy who I keep telling you, for whatever reason, I don't know why this is, but there must be some seminar, or there must be some new
that video you showed me.
Where guys go, hey, here's how you get rich online in the niche market of the manosphere. Step 1. Throw rocks at Rollo Tomassi. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. Throw them out there, and people will go, yeah or no, and you'll get attention, I guess. But somebody sent me this link about this guy who's like, well, here's something Rollo Tomassi got wrong. I'm like, no, I didn't get wrong. In fact, you're reinforcing exactly what I was saying by doing this video. But the only reason the reason why you don't know that is because you haven't really read my stuff or even understood anything that I've said in the past. And again,
just read the title.
Yeah. Well, the primary reason is this: is like I have always been a proponent for spinning plates, for dating non-exclusively, for was what Robert Greene has said this. A man's most valuable assets is time and his options, or his ability to maneuver. It's part of 48 Laws of Power. It's like, don't commit to anything.
Yeah.
Never commit to anything. Never commit to anyone. And of course, women will say, "Oh, men never commit." Well, men actually overcommit way, way too much, and far more.
Not the men they want. I think that's their issue.
Well, when
you said, the rest were invisible.
when women talk about commitment, it's always to them. It's not, I'm going to commit to military. I'm going to commit to my family. I'm going to commit to a business. I'm going to commit to paying my car off in a certain amount of time. I'm going to commit to, men take on so much more commitment than women do. But the only frame of reference that women have, when you just say the word commitment, they think, oh, they need to commit. A real man, a mature man, it needs to commit to what? A business? No, to me. Oh, okay, well, it's all about you, I guess. But that's the way that they interpret that word commitment. Whereas men, when it comes to, but what does commitment do? Well, there's responsibilities, there's liabilities to that, and men have more and more responsibilities with less and less authority. And when I talk about marriage, I've been married for 24 years. I've been with my wife for 25 years. My female wife for 25 years.
You have to specify that.
Yeah, I've got to specify these days. So that's a commitment, right? That's a commitment to be. So what's the exchange? What's the authority that I get in that? Well, I have a certain amount of authority as a man in that. So there are
soft power.
Yeah, the soft power. And can she just, doesn't he know that she could just up and divorce him anytime and just take all of his shit and go and leave? Yeah, sure. I do. But I also know that quality of life for her and me will probably decline rapidly if that was to ever happen. I don't have any need to do that.
You'll sit there in your bathrobe for a week and you'll cry and you'll eat your cereal and the dogs will sit there licking the tears off your face and then you'll be better in a week.
Right.
Or 2 weeks, or I don't know how long it is.
But so what, and I mentioned this with Aaron Clary as well about the difference. And the reason I got into this with him is because I mentioned it quite a bit in book 4 is the difference between authority and responsibility. and I don't think anybody is unfamiliar with what I'm about to say here, is that men have 100% responsibility and 0% authority, and in no other institution than in marriage. So when people say, well, Rollo, he's anti-traditionalist, he doesn't believe in tradcons and he throws rocks at them. I'm like, no.
Well, no, yeah, you don't believe in leeching either.
That's what I do. I hold up a mirror and you have to I just work here, man. I just show you what's going on. And so when I discuss that, and this was something I got, and I'm going to give away part of the book right now, but what are we at? 115? Yeah, okay, I can do it. Because people, you only like listen to like 30, 35 minutes of this one in the recording. But so here's part of the book. I make a comparison to the old coverture laws. Do you know what coverture was?
Ooh, I don't actually.
Coverture laws were something that was part of like the Victorian era. It's like the 1800s around there. And it's something that women, like particularly feminists, really like to like throw in people's face, right? Women couldn't own property and they were considered.
Oh, that thing.
Right? She's yours, right? And the law in marriage said that woman is yours. You are responsible for her. That's why patriarchy gets a bad rap, because they thought that it was all authority and no responsibility.
Yeah, they forget that when she racked up debt, that was his debt too.
Right. That's what a coverture law does, is it protects that man from the bad decisions that his wife would make in his name. So if she's not an equal of him in that marriage, therefore she cannot enter into legal contracts. Women could absolutely own property back in the Victorian era. They just couldn't be married. So if they inherited it from their father, even if they started their own business, women could start their own businesses and do their own thing. The minute they got married, that business transferred over to their husband. Mm-hmm. And so really what happened was you have a reversal of what we have right now. So back in the 1800s, back in the Victorian era, women could own property. They just couldn't own it and be married. So it was 100%. They had lots and lots of authority outside of marriage, but to get into marriage, they would lose all that authority. But the men still had the responsibility. So under an ideal kind of patriarchy, it's a balance between responsibility of the man and the authority of the man.
And if I recall, there was a large group of anti-suffragette women who were saying that they didn't want the voting because they didn't want the crap that came with it. Right. Of course, they ended up getting their cake and eating it too, which sucked. But it was a strong, if I remember too, it was like a majority of women were anti-suffragists. I could be wrong. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've done more research than I have.
Yeah, fully. I mean, especially in the beginning. And you have to remember that the suffragettes it might have started in the United States, but it also went over to the UK, and it spread through Western Europe. So it's not just like a localized thing. It was something that was going on. And it started in 1849 in Seneca Falls.
Somewhere around there. I don't know.
And went until, it's technically the suffragette movement ended in 1920 when the ratification of the 19th Amendment.
When the temperance movement started.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we got the vote. Let's get rid of all this booze.
I'm looking at about 71 years of the women's suffrage. And you're right. It took a long time to do. Like, I think one of the reasons it took so long is because it wasn't very unpopular, of course, but we didn't have the ability to disseminate the information like we did. And you'll notice that once we get like the press and we get into the age of industrialization, and it's no coincidence that it happened right after World War I. Because during the 4 years that World War I was going on, there was the White Feather Society, but when we are in a state of war, when we have civil unrest, when we have things that are going on socially, nobody cares about the suffragettes.
Yeah. What was it? No feminists in a house fire?
Right. And so as soon as we get into the Roaring '20s, then okay, now it's prohibition and all the things that come with the ratification of the 19th.
And then flapper girls. Which were like on the other side, same as now, where you have the girls talking about slut shaming other girls, don't be on OnlyFans. Meanwhile, there's girls like, I'm buying a house, screw you, bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Is bitch good for that? I don't want to get this booted again.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean,
all right.
They're so arbitrary about that. This is completely aside. You know what I've discovered about YouTube? Like, I'm always getting yellow flag. I'll definitely get red flag.
Thanks for showing up, guys. Tip your waitress.
Yeah. You guys. Yeah. yellow flagged by YouTube is it's completely arbitrary. I started asking for manual reviews because John said get some manual reviews and some of your videos will go green, and he was right about that. But I'm of the opinion right now it's completely arbitrary.
Yeah, it's just a machine system there. It's not very good.
Let's look at that thumbnail. Okay, looks good. Okay, nah. He said something I didn't like, and then they'll ban it completely, or they'll go back to yellow. I don't have any red. The only red I have one red video, and it's just because I used some copyrighted material. Like I think it was
same
something.
But I knew it as soon as I came in. I had fanfare for the common man on my like what to do during COVID video, and as soon as I put it up, I'm like, I guarantee you, it get reds flagged, and it did.
Yeah. So anyway, let me get back to coverture because there's a parallel to what's going on right now.
Yeah.
So back then, women had more authority outside of marriage than they did inside of marriage.
Right. But they were also the ones that wanted to get married. So
right. Well, and they also had an incentive to do so because for a woman to have sex and have babies, they were still prioritizing the beta bucks side of hypergamy. It's not that they wouldn't have liked to have gotten with a really hot dude and had sex with that hot dude and had fun, fun time making babies.
But there could have been a famine next year or the Dust Bowl in the 30s too.
Exactly. We didn't have pornography certainly not to the, on demand, like it's like part of the utilities today. It was a different time, right?
Right.
But it's not that human beings didn't want to have sex. They really did. And it's not that hypergamy didn't exist in the roaring 20s or in the, the Victorian era. It absolutely did. How women could express that and the context within that expression was completely, it was very much a man's world, right? I mean, we talk about how it was all patriarchal, but what we don't talk about is how men had the authority to exercise the responsibility that we keep saying men need more responsibility and need more masculine. We just need more masculine guys. They need to take responsibility. They need to man up, take more responsibility, and let men be men. Well, great. How do I do that? I can't do that if I don't have authority to exercise those responsibilities.
And that rabbit hole goes deep. You didn't even hit like adultery laws. Do you remember those?
Yes.
They used to be a thing. I think the Marines were the one that held on to it for the longest.
Right.
So you can't, and here's back to like, she's not yours, it's just your turn. You take away adultery laws. So your wife, 20 years, 30 years, whatever, can go sleep with the pool boy. Nothing is wrong with that from a legal perspective. So if you can't legally expect that kind of fidelity from a wife of like decades, guys are walking to a third date with a girl expecting it with that sense of ownership there. Like even put the feelings aside, put the mentality aside, just from a legal framework. That's probably an irresponsible approach to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so as far as like coverture, like when I started like looking into that, I looked at it as a parallel to what's going on with guys today.
100%.
MGTOWs will be happy to tell you exactly the same thing, right? That you have more authority as a man outside of marriage than you do inside of marriage. So all of the things that like you still want to get that. Like, remember, men are now in this position where it's like they'll say, I want to have babies. I want to have kids. I want to, make sure that I'm a good dad and they have a good grandparents and blah, blah, blah. Normal human things, right? They want to do that, but they're prevented from that because of the way that the social order is when it comes to marriage right now. So, and this gets back to another question. Somebody was asking me about like polyandry. I forget who that was.
It was one of the super chats early on, I think.
One of the super chats earlier on. Yes. Something I have written about and told people was going to be that's the new normalization. I said this back in 2016, 2017, and here we are. Now everybody wants to talk about alternative relationship strategies. Well, what does that mean? Well, usually it means one guy and then many women, or else it's one woman and a bunch of beta orbiters who pretend that's their only real physical sexual access that they can get to. And we're going to normalize the idea that you can have a poly relationship and you could still be married. You can have a main and you can go and bang other people. Well, who can exercise that the best in this social order? It's not Father Abraham with 2 wives and his concubines. No, it's the average feminist woman who can't get it any other way, who has 4 guys that are living with her who are basically beta males who want to be these, male feminist identifiers who are happy to do the dishes and keep the home fires burning. Well, she's out looking for an alpha to bang on Friday, and they think that's a good idea. That's hip. That's something that's an adaptive strategy. That's a sexual strategy right now.
Power to them.
Well, you're a reactionary. It'll never go mainstream. here we are.
Yeah. And to be fair, it's not been around long enough to be able to give us like a long-term strategy assessment to it. So maybe it is great. I don't know. I don't want it though. So they can fill their boots. Find one of those guys, get like no offense to Jeff Miller, but get a Jeff Miller type to write a how to get 3 dudes on your wife course giver. Let me know how it turns out. Maybe something good will come out of it. Who knows?
Deep inside your mind says this. He says, Rollo, Ryan, in my experience, women enjoy to be owned sexually. That's where I'm going next. But
yeah, that's different word to own, though.
Yes,
not the same thing.
So, seems hardwired to want to be taken, owned by a man who can do it. Deep thoughts. Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's the next step. Because we've already explored the side where the idea of she's not yours, it's just your turn, that gets exploited by like guys who are really nihilistic. So why bother? Now's the opposite side. And I know Son Mills was talking about this, and this is exactly what deeper inside your mind says right here, is women want to be owned. They do. You're absolutely 100% correct. By the guy that is the most dominant alpha that is in their lives. And they want to find a way to sustain that. They want to find, and that's become even harder and harder to do right now, because women have access to seeing how screwed up their lives is compared to their girlfriends' lives, compared to Cardi B's lives, compared to whoever's on OnlyFans or their friends on Instagram, whoever. It's always there 100% of the time, 24/7 in their face. So what they're saying, like, don't you believe, like guys would ask me, don't you think that women want to be owned? And yeah, even Royce has said that a woman wants to submit to a worthy man's life direction. And that is absolutely true. I've seen women I've seen feminists who will renounce their feminist, in fact, they have this kind of like identity crisis because they have been feminists for so long. And then they meet the one guy who is like,
the Lacey Green effect.
The guy who can go out there and he's got the V taper and he's the man's man. He's out there chopping wood with the bare chested and everything. And suddenly she's not a feminist anymore. And she really wants to submit to that guy, and she wants to be taken by that guy, and she wants to be owned and hammered hard by that guy. Sterling Cooper will tell you how it works in the bedroom. I'm going to tell you how it works outside the bedroom. She wants somebody who is going to dominate her, not only sexually, but also as a life mate, as the guy that she wants to have sex with, the guy that she wants to have children with. And I always screw this up. I forget who it was. There was a celebrity chick who was like, he said, I never want to have kids. I don't want to have kids, blah, blah, blah. And she ended up getting with a guy. I think he was a soccer player, and they got married, and now she's got kids. And she says, I didn't want to have kids, but I wanted to have his kids.
Was that Posh Spice with Beckham or somebody else?
I don't think it was.
I only know one soccer player, so that's all I got.
A very famous actress who got with a soccer player, and somebody will come up with it in the chat, I'm sure. But that I thought that was
Eva Mendes. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
There you go. Yeah. Eva Mendes. God, I gotta remember Eva Mendes.
How could you forget?
I use that example so often now. But yeah, I thought I saw that, and I'm like, that really explains the idea of a woman women want to get with the ideal alpha. They still want to get with that guy. If they can lock that guy down, that's great. But for the last 55 years, we've taught women that to not look for that guy in the same guy. Guy there's the guys you bang, and then there's the guys you marry. And the guys you marry are always boring, and you'll never give them the same thing, like as willingly or as with the same genuine desire as you gave the guy who was a hot guy in the foam cannon party when you were in college.
Hey, speaking of that, do you remember your this is a gender war tweets you had going on for the longest time, right?
Yeah.
There was a little meta narrative I saw coming out of it, which is hilarious, where there was always stories about like the girl would get an abortion and not tell her husband, and he'd find out and he'd cry or something like that. It was always like, she'll get an abortion without telling the beta buck side, but you'll have an oopsie pregnancy for the alpha side.
Right.
And that's what I laugh when you were talking about all this brainwashing chicks and thinking this and that. They can get through to the frontal lobe, sure. You can get all kinds of that rational argument. But as soon as the limbic brain, which is really making all the decisions anyway, once that kicks in, none of that crap matters. They'll come up with a whole new justification. It's like Lacey Green or Eva Mendes. She probably still believes it. I could bet you anything. She would probably be like you said, I don't want to have kids, and she believes that in her heart of hearts. But she's like, yeah, I'm having his kids though. And the two thoughts don't even cross paths with each other.
And I will let me explain why I think that that's a thing. And so when it comes to like saying, well, she's not yours, it's just your turn. When you look at the guys who are like sort of the success porn guys, the motivational guru guys, the life coach guys who say, yeah, you can absolutely have, she'll absolutely be part of your life. She'll absolutely be that. All you got to do is be the man. You got to be that guy. Okay. Something I've also agreed with as well is you've got to be the guy that is the most dominant guy that she knows. So she imprints on that. So if you're into Swedish death metal, she's into Swedish death metal, right? So you got to be the guy that she wants to have babies with, she wants to be married to, she wants to be involved with, she has a genuine desire to share, to fall into your frame, to be a part of that frame. Most women aren't like that. They don't know that. They don't know that they need that, because I think it's sort of a limbic thing. I think it's an evolved part of women's mental firmware, but they have been raised for generation after generation to override that firmware with the software. And the software says, never do anything for the express pleasure of a man. If you do, you are not a strong, independent woman. Registered trademark. Yep.
One good dopamine dick, though, that all goes away. That's why it's like, relax. It's just, and that's your turn.
You're at home, right? Yeah, that's your turn. And so I still think even in the framework of, say, like the success porn guys or the man up kind of thing, even within that framework where you say, well, it's possible. And I'm happy to say, yeah, it is possible. You can do it. But like, you're still going to be fighting against guys who are going to say, oh man, you can't out alpha the state. She could leave anytime she wants. Yeah. You have to accept that. That's do you want kids? Do you want to have a family? Do you want to? That's the risk that you are going to take. And no woman, especially in the last 55 years, is going to appreciate the sacrifices that a man has to make to facilitate her reality. Guess where that's from? My first book, 2013. Thank you.
I remember that book. That was a good one.
Yeah, it was really good. So that was from the appreciation chapter. Women fundamentally lack the ability to appreciate the sacrifices that men make to facilitate their realities.
Yeah, and you have a couple guys in the chat here saying stuff like that. Well, what is, she just wants to get, like, what if these girls are desperate and in debt? I thought it went without saying that if she's not worth it to you, don't hook up with her. Like, you do get a say in this. We are the gatekeepers of commitment. We kind of go without saying here that when we're talking about a commitment long-term with a girl, that she provides more value than she takes. So if you're thinking we're telling you to man up the fatties, like, no, man.
No.
At least I'm not. I don't know, maybe you are.
I think a lot of guys get upset about that too, because when I talk about, like, I've written I think it might have been a chapter in book 2. It was the SMV, sexual market value ratios and secure attachments. So when a woman is one step below you in sexual market value and you're one step above her, that's usually good for a good loving attachment. Like, she wants to be with you because she thinks that she can't do better. It answers the hypergamous doubt, which is, is he the best I can do? And if you can maintain that, if you are, staying on top of your game, if you're the guy, your vision, your goals, what is it? Royce says, what is it? Well, I've said this, is a woman should only ever be a complement to your life and never the focus of it. And women will lose their minds because in a gynocentric social order, that guy should always be qualifying. But the thing is, women don't want that. They don't want a guy who is their equal. They want a guy who is above them, because if a man is their equal, she can never look up to you.
Well, it's a responsibility thing. Girls are terrified of failure, right? Imagine you make her the marker of success. And now if you fail in any shape or form, that reflects badly on her. So of course, dude, who wants that on their shoulders? I'd sabotage, and most girls do. They'll sabotage it on purpose just so they don't ever have to approach that. I wasn't good enough to make him the best he could be. So no, it's got to be his fault.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's 100% responsibility and 0% authority. And that covers lots of different things. It's not just about like, oh, I got to take care of my kids. It's, you got to keep the relationship fresh. Relationships are hard work. No, they're not. Real good relationships are effortless. You know why? Because a good relationship is one where she is desirous of you, where she is the one that puts more effort into it, or any effort at all. Because right now in gynocentric the society and the idea that here's what's a healthy relationship is, men are always have to qualify. They have to be responsible and constantly qualify. Women have to do nothing. They have to don't all they got to do, and they don't even have to look good. They don't even have to have sex with you. Anything. It doesn't matter. They just have to exist, and you have to qualify to that, because if you don't, you get divorced, you lose half your shit.
You will laugh at this, man. I was at Costco yesterday and I was watching. I saw him twice. There was two guys with those, those baby backpacks, put the baby on the front thing.
Yeah.
Sitting there hauling the baby and all the things in their thing, and the girl's just walking beside him with her nose in her phone. And I was like, it threw me so off. And I'm like, wow, all I could think about was that qualification constantly thing. It's like she pressured you into a baby and now making you haul him around with the groceries around while she's busy on Facebook.
Yeah. Right.
I can't even blame the girl though, because like, why wouldn't she do this? It's working because guys are putting up with it, because guys are thirsty and they're scarce and they're so worried about losing her. They'll do whatever it takes. And the idea of just making yourself the standard is so foreign. I can see why people hate you, because you're suggesting, hey, maybe if you treat yourself first, other people will value you more. And they're like, shut up.
What I think people need to, especially in the manosphere and in red pill, communities, and need to be reminded of, is that most men are beta. Most men are low. I say low. They are low SMV. They are low value to women.
Supplicative, raised by divorced or single moms, bad parenting strategies, horrible men.
Well,
defective women.
Well, it's like they are, let's say they might be great guys. They might be on top of their game. They might be, that's why I didn't want to use the term beta, but they are undesirable. They are invisible or undesirable to women, to the point where women simply don't pay them any mind. They're busy looking at the guys that they think that they are owed.
Yeah. And you're talking just sexually. It's like, because I think people think that means like they can't hold down a job, they don't know how to cook. Like you can be great in everything. Who was the cook guy again? The chef. Chef suicide there.
Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain. He's one of those beta males too, even though he's completely successful in just about any other avenue.
Right. I know. Why would a woman like Asia Argento, who was in her 40s, by the way, and still, she was thin enough to look somewhat good, right? But she is in no way a sexual competitor with the kinds of girls that Anthony Bourdain could have gotten with. But he got with her. She's 40 some odd years old. She's messed up. He's attracted to her. She's attracted to him, but still doesn't want to opt out of her options. Right. So she gets with the younger guy. He kills himself. And I would argue that as alpha as Anthony Bourdain seemed to be with his life and his food and his restaurants and his all the stuff that his TV shows, he was sort of a low key celebrity, right? Maybe a little bit better than that. I don't know. But was the kind of guy who would kill himself over something like that. Do you think that a woman, especially a 40 some odd year old woman, doesn't know that? Do you think that she doesn't in some way say, well, I could live happily ever after with this 60 some odd year old guy, but I'm not done on the carousel yet. I still want to, maneuver. I still want to explore my options, kind of thing. What was the other guy?
Which one are we talking about?
No, we're talking about Anthony Bourdain.
The other guy. Actor?
I want to. No. Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos he's the richest man in the world. He got $200 billion. What was it? Was it Chris Rock? I think it was Chris Rock or Jay Chappelle said he is so rich that he had a divorce for $33 billion, and he's still the richest man on planet Earth. And so, but Jeff Bezos is beta as hell. Yeah. Do you think that Lauren Dirty Sanchez
was that the mistress?
Him coming and going? Yeah, the girl that he's with, the girlfriend that cost him $33 billion.
Jeez, talk about jumping out of the frying pan into an ugly fire.
Do you think she couldn't read that in him? Do you think that Jeff Bezos is the guy that's going to pound her to glory? That she really wants to have? Does she want to have his babies? No, of course, she's too old to have them now. But like, would he have been the kind of guy that she would want to have babies with? No. So she's not. He has lots of money. He's from a financial perspective, he's the most alpha guy in the world.
And to be fair, the TRT was getting him pretty jacked up. He was building the physique for it.
Around, yeah, he's starting to think maybe he's had a little bit more self-esteem as a result of that. Sure, but it doesn't make him like game savvy. It doesn't make him red pill. That's for damn sure, because he could have had. He could be living like Dan Blitzerian, right? He could have had a new girl anytime. He still can have a new girl anytime he wants, but that's not what he wants.
He was children with dynamite. He didn't know what to do with the tool. Even just TRT is a tool. Face it.
And you have and here's an aside. Beware the guys who have so much money that they can't learn from their beta blue pill mistakes. Like the guys who get into something and they go, forget about it. I'll be all right. It'll work out this way.
And to be fair, I guess that's one sexual strategy. Earn so much money that the rules don't apply to you. You just get a new one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one way to go about it. I don't know if it's good for everybody.
Chris Z says this. He says, was O.J. Simpson beta for killing his cheating wife and her lover? Simply asking just because he's a good example of a guy who thought she was his. I'm going to argue that O.J. Simpson is clinically insane.
Yeah.
You see any video of O.J. Simpson? You would probably agree to.
Now, I'd say it's more alpha in if you want to talk strictly that, because like you said, the insanity part, the dark triad parts, it's probably attractive. He seems like a dangerous man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really, if you think about like professional athletes and stuff. Oh, Warrior Race. Sorry, I didn't get to your thing here.
Yeah.
Professional athletes, guys who look like they're the complete package. You know why like women love rock stars, or they love like athletes, or they love professional athletes anyways, because they look like they might be the best that they could do. And that's why there's that visceral sexual nature comes out at the same time, where it's like, well, I got to lock this guy down. You were giving me an example just a minute ago about how women have this option sort of to, if they get pregnant by the alpha,
it's an oopsie pregnancy.
Yeah, it's an oopsie pregnancy, right? Or if it's not, if they really want to have that guy's baby, then they tell the beta that they're banging at the same time, oh, it's your kid. That's exactly what happened to Jay Cook, and he found out about it, thank God. But then he's so beta and so blue pill that he says, oh, I don't care. I want to be a good dad. I really had it, because he had an emotional investment in that. Why? Because he wanted to own that girl.
Dude, I think, does Rich talk about like that's one of the big reasons you don't date single moms? Because that's how they hook guys. Hate the girl, but they'll get attached to the kid, man.
Yeah, well, it's again, and then the other thing is like when women can't lock down that alpha, and then even when they have a baby, whether maybe it's not his, maybe they have a baby later on with the beta male guy. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've run into this before, because I know I've said this on Twitter. Is there's sort of this phenomenon of women who are with guys who they don't want their last names, or they'll hyphenate the last name or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they have a baby, and they name the baby after the alpha male that they're widowed from. Like, it's like, oh, well, little Johnny, your ex-boyfriend was, and then they'll find out from like her sister, or for someone like one of her, friends from college will say, oh, you named him Johnny after your boyfriend. That was,
I thought her grandfather's name was Tyrone. What the hell?
Exactly. and guys are like,
dude, that would hurt, man.
Yeah, exactly. You let her name the child, especially if it's a male child. Woo, yeah, you got to be careful of that, and women will do that. Why? And you don't see guys going, yeah, I want to name her Jennifer, like they're the girl that they were still pining for. They don't do that. Women do that. Women will name their kids after Alex, or whoever the guy was that she got with, who's the one that got away. And you won't see men doing this. You will see women doing this.
Damn,
because
them chicks, man.
They want a constant reminder. Oh, remember Alex? Oh yeah, that was great. Back in college, back in the foam cannon party, he was so cute. Yeah. Or what? Did you ever see that movie? Maybe you didn't. You probably didn't. There was a Pixar movie called Inside Out.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
And all of the all the cartoon characters in it were like supposed to be emotions inside the head of people. Like,
okay,
there's anger, there's this, there's that. It was a stupid movie, okay, but the thing that got me, and people, I probably would not have watched it, or would not have even paid attention to it if somebody hadn't told me about the the hot helicopter pilot that the mom was still pining for, and her emotions were still saying we should have stayed with the hot helicopter pilot. Like, that was the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And it's basically hypergamy, in a nutshell that they're laughing at, and it's ootsy cutesy kind of stuff. But even when it comes to like ownership, like if you look at the story plot, the plot line to a movie like Titanic, it's basically the one that got away. It's the alpha widow narrative. The guy that owns her is the guy from her past, is the guy who died. He went down to the bottom of the sea, right? it's Jack. Oh, Jack, it's freezing.
Yeah. And I have a hard time with sympathy for that because, like, I know the saving the best is kind of where we're going and dancing around this, but let's keep it in the movie. Billy Zane knew. It's not like he didn't know. So when he walked into there eyes wide open. He had to convince himself otherwise.
Right. And yeah, there has to be a lot. Well, I think most guys, again, I think
they have to opt into their own delusion. They just do.
But hear me out. And I'm glad you brought that up because it goes back to my original point, which is most guys are beta. Most guys don't have the sexual opportunity that the top 20% guys do. And so they've got to find ways around that. Either that's usually that's strategic pluralism theory, which is invest everything into one woman. Monkey branch. There are far more men who are serial monogamists than there are women. And especially in this day and age, and in the OnlyFans age, in the age of ego, where women have more and more opportunity, men are the ones who are like trying to sell themselves because 80%, 85% are unattractive to women. And women are all focused on the top 20% in a gynocentric social order. So they're looking at these guys like, I don't want to settle for that. I don't have to settle for that. So how does that 80% of guys make themselves stand out? Well, you either opt out or you make yourself better. And so when it comes to like strategic pluralism theory, they say to shine, they go, I'm not like those guys. I'm the guy who's going to commit. I'm the guy who's the old fashioned guy, old order thinker who's going to take care of you, baby. And I'm always going to have
a warped way of looking at things.
It's going to be a good union job. And I'm going to be a machinist. And, and we're living on a prayer, right? Bon Jovi.
I just picture it like this. Hey, baby, you see that things there that you're always after? I'm not like any of those things. Come get with me.
Yeah, as if that could be a selling point.
But we're a commodity now, though. That's what it is. Like,
well, it's old order thinking too.
Yeah, that's because back in the day, guys were harder to come by. We kept dropping off the face of the earth on wars and getting caught in the combines of a tractor. We're a commodity now. There's 4 billion guys. We're everywhere. You throw a rock at 4 of us. Yeah, and like any commodity, if you don't position yourself as a luxury, what's the difference between you and the 5 dicks on her phone already?
And I think generation after generation of men, young men, have been brought up, like we keep saying, were raised as defective women, are raised into a gynocentric social order where they can be serviceable, where they can be indentured servants, right? They can be they have to be serviceable at the right time. So when the woman is finally done with her fun year, like the Sandbergian hypergamy theory, oh, I'm done. Now I need the guy who's my equal partner who wants an opinionated woman who's okay. Where are they? That's why women hate the red pill. That's why they hate game. That's why they want to demonize it and tell you that it's radicalizing guys. It's not radicalizing guys. It's waking them up. So they're not there when they're, in their epiphany phase and are 29 to 31 years old. And they're like, screw this. I know that in a few years, if not now, I have more sexual selection opportunity than you ever will because your sexual market value decays way faster than mine does.
But if a guy doesn't build it early on, he never had it, and you'll still never had it. And then some of the guys who didn't have it early on, they built it, but they still have that fat kid mindset. You lose a bunch of weight, but you still act like a fat kid. Yep. That's the prime market of what those post-wall women are after. They want the fat kid who found steroids and got hot.
So what the sort of success porn guys do, whether the man up guys, the life coaches, the dating coaches, whatever, be the best version of yourself kind of guy. And I'm not saying they're all grifters, they're not, but I'm just saying that the mindset, when they hear she's not yours, it was just your turn, they think that that's a cop out. They think that that is dissuading guys from being the best that they can be because it states that no woman is going to stick with you anyways. And they go, well, screw it. You can be with a woman. You can do these things. You can make this work for yourself, but they're also fighting an uphill battle. because again, at least 80% of the guys who are coming to them for advice, who want to build themselves up into the best version that they can be,
that's what they want to believe.
From a very early age, you only get with one girl, you stick with her, you set yourself apart by catering your life and making decisions based on how you're going to be a better husband, how you're going to be a better father, how you're going to do all this good stuff, like the traditional, like let's grow a beard and go pretend we're lumberjacks. That's the sort of archetype that they're trying to embrace anyways. But that doesn't work if women are fickle, flighty. It's not your turn. It was just, and so what happens, I think, is there's also the sort of the pre-tense of it, and then there's the past tense of it. So when the PUAs were talking about it, it was sort of to help guys to get themselves into a different frame of mind. So if 80% of guys can't get laid, and I'm mystery, and I'm teaching guys, how to get laid, then the first hurdle I have to get over is convincing these guys to unlearn what they've learned, that they can do it, that they can have options, because most guys simply don't believe that they could ever have options. And the only valid game, whether it's religion or it's society or they watch too many Disney movies, is stick with one girl, follow your heart. Whatever the silly Disney tropes are, find your one. She's your one. She's the soulmate that you've been looking for. All that does is promote a monogamous goal state. And so when you say, well, the best version of yourself ought to be get with one woman, stay with one woman, and maybe that's true, maybe that's not, depending on the guy that you're listening to. But if that's the goal state, is to have one woman, have babies, and have this kind of semi-conventional, semi-traditional marriage, if that's what you're trying to do, yeah, you're going to, and you're the 80%er, you're going to be the guy who's going to be a serial monogamist, because you think that anything else is going to put you in jeopardy of losing your investment that you're making in that one woman. So if we go, okay, here's my girlfriend. How do I turn her around, Rollo? How do I have sex with her? How do I get her to be, it was so great before. How do I get her to come back? If your investment is all in just that one woman, then yeah, when it becomes, she's not yours, it was just your turn, that sounds like a cop-out, because now she's decided to move on because you just weren't the right guy, or you just weren't the guy who was the best for her.
Or you were doting over her so much, she's like, how about that guy that kind of doesn't want me? Mm-hmm. That pre-selection thing. Like, the guy doesn't want me? Everybody should want me like this guy here does. Why doesn't he want me? And then now they're curious.
Right.
It's total self-defeating.
Or you fall into habits, you fall into habits of self-deprecation. And I see this in religious circles quite a bit, where guys will say, I can't believe my wife got with me. Oh, it must be a God thing, because I don't know why. It's a miracle she'd get with a schmuck like me.
Yeah, so you're saying your wife has bad judgment is what you're telling me.
Right. And so these guys who still think they have their shit together, and they think that they're a good father and they're a good leader of industry, and they're, volunteer at the church, and they find that their wife at 38, 39 wants to dump them to get with a bodybuilder. She's never yours. It's just your turn. Right? It's almost like, it is what it is.
I don't think they want the girl though.
Yeah.
I think they want the idea of the girl.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, she's the aspiration. She's that Plato's, like, they don't actually see what she has. That's why all of these failed strategies totally don't take into account what's painfully obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're saying, like, I'm not like those other guys. Well, she was banging all the other guys, so clearly that's what she wants. But the only way you can see that and come to that conclusion is if you assume that's not a person in front of you. That's just like a thing.
Right.
And that's like a very common trait in narcissism, where they kind of dehumanize everybody around them, and they're just, how does this person fit within my little life script? What set piece are they?
Mm-hmm. That's one thing. I think it was Dr. Warren Farrell's where I read this. But he postulates that the reason that guys turn dating into a game like Get Lucky or Did You Score, is because what it does is it insulates them from rejection. So if it's a game and not a human, then if you didn't score, you'll try again. It's you'll win the game next time.
Now, is he saying that as if it's a bad thing or a good thing?
No, it's originally as a bad thing, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, because again, she's not yours. It's just your turn. Keeps women at arm's distance. Yeah. So you're not putting the kind of effort into, like, the solitary single effort that you're putting into a woman that even the doomers would say is not worth doing.
Yeah.
So if you say, well, she's not yours, it's just your turn, then why would I bother investing in what is potentially and quite probably a losing investment? Why would I do something like that?
Almost sounds like you're valuing your own attention,
When in
commitment,
fact,
and affection.
When in fact, the actual saying was less about that and more about spin more plates, stay dissociated, be non-exclusive until such time as
they earn it.
Till they earn it. Good. Yeah. Also, and you are a better judge of character, and you know what women's nature is about. Spinning plates. Let me be 100% clear that spinning plates is not about randomly banging as many women as humanly possible. Right? It is about ultimately. It is about filtering for genuine desire. Which is the primary thing I've always talked about, but it is also so you get the experience with women, so you understand their nature, so you can
deception,
so you can make better decisions when you decide you want to become monogamous, because that's your goal state, right? Maybe it's not, maybe it is, but if it is, you can't not no game. You can't not be red pill, because if you are uneducated and you are at a distinct disadvantage in that case. So
yeah, well, I was like my old tweet I had about stop bringing a knife, which was like 20 or TradCon dating ideals, to a gunfight, which is like the sexual marketplace today.
Yeah,
that's it. Because how is this guy going to know? So he's just going to have his old models. He's very naive. This chick that's been battle hardened on Dick Hill, fighting her battles, comes in 30 years old with a sun hat and a summer dress, puts on her nicest, that tattoo is because I miss my father. He's going to fall for that. How many pastors right now are married to ex-porn stars?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I maybe it's just me, but like guys always send me those stories. I can think of at least 3 off the top of my head. And then there was the guy I interviewed whose wife became a porn star after she was a pastoress, or whatever the hell they call them.
Pastoress.
Pastoress.
I like that.
All right. Let me get to some of these. Unless you got something else you want to add, I want to get to, because these are some pretty good questions here.
Oh no, these guys paid for them. Let's give them their time.
All right. Delphinity, whatever your name is. Rollo, have you heard about Megan Fox leaving her relationship of 15 years with 3 young kids for a younger rapper, MGK? I have, actually. It would be a great topic. Thanks. Yeah. I understand. She's Megan Fox, right? She probably still thinks she has opportunities. I think right now, do you remember Casey Anthony? Do you remember the Casey Anthony case?
Killed a party, man.
Killed a party, right? She's the killed a party girl. I think one reason why you see more teachers who are abusing, technically they're rapists, right? They're women, because there's more women in education now, but they always follow this profile where you have these teachers who become rapists of boys, right? They're women who all follow a similar profile. And the word that we need to use is rapist, but essentially what they're doing is having sex with underage boys who cannot legally give consent to have sex with an adult. That is statutory rape. So why is that happening? Well, I think primarily it's because of the opportunity that they have. Also, Megan Fox, she didn't kill her kids, but it's still the same dynamic. Killed a party.
Yeah, she didn't set them up for success either.
Yeah, detonate my family to party. So what happens is when you have a woman who believes that she has more sexual opportunity or she has more availability, it doesn't matter how many kids she has. In case of Casey Anthony, if she's a freak, she might even kill the kid so that she has the opportunity to go back into the sexual marketplace and find the right guy. Did you know Casey Anthony got remarried?
I heard, yeah, she got out of prison and remarried. So somebody looked at all that and went,
said, yeah,
not bad.
Sign me up.
What are the odds she's going to kill her family twice?
Right.
Even OJ only did it once.
And that seems like horrific, right? When we think about the kill to party dynamic, but that's essentially what the reason why women want safe legal abortion, because it's a fail safe to keep them back in the game, to get them back in the game. Well, he wasn't the right one. I can abort the child and I can get back, kill the party. I can get back in the game and I can find the right guy. I just haven't met the one. It's also why the same kind of dynamic, like it's this prioritization. There's no consequences for this, right? There's even Casey Anthony, the kill to party dynamic, still there's no consequences to it because she got married. She lives happily ever after, right?
Yeah. There was the prison, but I'm pretty sure her prison was nice.
Yeah. So you've got that going on. And Megan Fox, right? Well, maybe she just decided to detonate the family with 3 kids to get with a guy who was younger. Why? Because the guy she was with was not the one. He's not the one. He's not as fun and exciting as this guy. And I'm Megan Fox, for fuck's sake. I can have whoever I want.
So you know that guy in Colorado who did that, right? He murdered his wife and their kids, and he went to jail. He was trying to kill himself, but he failed. I am going to be curious over the next 5 to 10 years how his life is going to go. Is he going to get remarried? Are people in prison going to shank him? Because I know guys who touch kids aren't treated well in prison. Women don't seem to have that issue.
The latest thing I read on that guy is he has women that want to have conjugal visits with him. He's got his own female hybristophilia, whatever you want to call it, fan club that want to get with him.
So I wonder if this Casey Anthony crap is a lot like that strong, independent men. I can do it too. I can murder my family.
I'm sure that's the rationale. I'm sure that's the rationale behind it. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things that seems kind of funny. Obviously, I'm sure it's like predominantly, it's not like a even Steven thing between men and women. Just interesting.
Garth gave us $50. Thank you, man. That was very kind of you. And I don't even have to.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Thanks, brother. Let's see. What else do I have? I know I missed a few. I will go back to those ones that I missed.
I see you skipped this one about your fourth book, huh?
Hard, yeah. Most guys have always been low SMV historically. Yes, true. We're more aware of it now, I think, because we have the internet, because we have social media, because it's 24/7 now. It has always applied throughout history. There hasn't been much of a change. I would heartily agree, but at least in the past, men had more means to overcome that, because women had to, in some way, invest in men from the beta bucks, provisioning, resource transfer kind of thing. Whereas now they feel like they don't, or at least, even if it's not true, perceptually, that's what women think. What else do I have here? Did I miss some? No, I didn't. Okay. Hubert says, hi, Rollo. Lack of accountability is natural, congenital to women.
It's a goal.
Yeah. I would say that lack of accountability is something that women would like, because they need option here. Okay. I'm going to get really deep here in just a second.
7-word question 20 minutes later.
Like, guys will ask me about, like, and I promise I won't belabor this, but the idea of solipsism, like, why are women innately why does Rollo say they're innately solipsistic? Because it's a survival adaptation. They have to be. So lack of accountability is also something that is, I would argue that it's part of women's innate mental firmware, is to at least I'm not saying that they don't learn this, but I think that a lack of accountability is something that benefits them because they can get away with more. Why is that? Well, because they're looking for quality. As I said before about the kill the party dynamic, we were just talking about that. Why would it be that women would want to avoid accountability? Because it puts them back in the game. It puts them back on the sexual marketplace. If you look at things like freezing eggs or on-demand abortion, if you look at child support laws, if you look at divorce laws, particularly Duluth model feminist laws that are on the books right now, they are all based on one thing: provide women the maximum amount of time to find the guy that they can lock down, to find the guy whose babies they want to have. Most women don't get that, and they haven't had that, and certainly not prior to the sexual revolution. They had to go with what their best options were, what the best bet was.
Which, by the way, sorry to cut you off 2 seconds. That's why feminism isn't an ideology; it's a tactic. Because it's just that's why they all make no sense between them, because they're all just aiming at that goal.
Right. If you look at the legislation that gynocentrism / feminism has installed in society since the sexual revolution, it has all been designed for one thing: maximizing women's opportunity to optimize hypergamy. Simple as that. So you want to know why Casey Anthony gets off for killing kids? Well, okay, it's horrible. It's murder. It's unethical, blah, blah, blah. Why is there a separate standard of justice for women? Which there is. Women are, and I could show you that it's very well studied, that women get much more lenient sentences for the same crimes that men commit. Why? Well, because we have a different way. Well, she's a woman. We want to make up for all these historical victimizations of women over the years. But furthermore, it's also the protector dynamic that we innately have as men, to say, well, we need to protect women more, and men need to be more responsible. Men are more responsible for their actions, personal responsibility. Women are not. Why? Well, lack of accountability is part of women's innate mental firmware. We think of them as children, or when it's convenient, women go, I didn't know. And you go, oh, it's okay, honey. Don't worry.
Crazy how agency works that way, huh?
That's why we have separate standards of justice for men and for women right now. And we will never have like complete gender parity in justice. It won't happen. That's why these girls, like I was saying before, the girls who are the teachers who are essentially rapists of their young underage student boys, the reason why they get very lenient sentences, and men who send an inappropriate text lose their jobs, their livelihoods, their wives, their if they don't go to jail, they register as sex offenders just for an off color tweet or whatever. That's the reason, because women, I think we innately expect women to lack accountability because it works in their favor. So think about it this way. When if you look at my graph for peak sexual market value for women, the peak is right around 22, 23, 24, right around there. Women know that their agency and their sexual market value is it accelerates really high and it drops really precipitously. So you're hot and there's a reason why they call the store Forever 21 and not Forever 41, because every woman wants to be in that peak era, right? They want to be in that peak. They want to look like they did when they were 21, when they were 22, when they were 23 years old, somewhere around there. Because I think innately women know that their sexual market value is perishable. It decays. And as a result, they need to first of all, they need to extend that as much as they possibly can. That's why when you say, oh, women hit the wall at 30, no, they want to give you the reason why that they get upset about that is because women believe that they should have an unlimited sexual market value, peak that just goes on and on and on forever. That they're always that's like when women say,
I wanted to be Superman when I was a kid. Things happen.
Well, when women say, well, when you get to be 36 or 40, that's when women hit their sexual peak. No, that is not. Your fertility, your highest fertility window is probably when you're 22, 23 years old. You want everyone to believe that, because if everyone believes that women hit their sexual peak right around 35 to 40 years old, what does that do? It extends their viable sexual market value.
Do you know that reminds me of?
Reality wise, it ended at about 28.
Yeah, that reminds me of every time a girl's been dating a guy for a while and then she kind of lets it slip that, I think I might be a little bisexual, or I'd always be into that kind of thing. That bait and switch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Here's the free samples.
Thank you, miss.
Come get the free samples.
I think I have an addiction to blowjobs. Anyways, this was a lovely dinner last night. Oh, thank you. Let me just go buy a ring. Yeah. Girls lie. I cannot believe. Why can't they be like the older women who never could?
Yeah. Let's see. Sam Whiskey said, should we all question our first name? Yeah, maybe. Ask your mom why you were named what you were named. I already know why I was named what I was named. Like, yeah, that actually, it makes me wonder, like when guys find out, like through 23andMe or some kind of like, pop DNA test, that their dad is not actually their dad. And I wonder how many of those guys go to mom and say, why did I get the name Joe?
Oh, dude, I've seen a couple of those ones. They always make their little social media presence. Yeah, it's a little less cordial than that.
I shouldn't laugh, but man, because there's a high probability you were named after the dude who actually did your mom.
usually what you see on those is the kid and the dad end up forming a coalition to like tell mom to piss off.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, good on that. It's the one time I've seen it where sisterhood uber Alice doesn't win above all.
I have heard, and this is like really sad, but I'm going to say it anyways, is I've heard old women after their husbands have died, like that, old women in the term like 60, maybe pushing 70, and their husband died, before them. And I've heard them tell their grandkids or granddaughters or their daughters, there was just part of Jim that I couldn't give myself to. Like there was he could never have all of me kind of thing. And I think that women, when they marry that beta guy and then they settle in with that guy and they realize that he's their first best option and they couldn't get with the one that got away. They couldn't, the one that they would have liked to have locked down. And then when that guy's gone and they're sort of contemplating what he was all about, assuming they don't just forget about the guy, it's usually regret on her part for saying, well, there's just part of me he could never access or he could never have. And that's an alpha widow. And that is a tragic, lifelong alpha widow. Let me. What else is here? Sam Whiskey says, "Should we all question her name?" That was great. Constantine gave me $2 Canadian. I think you called them dollars. Ryan.
Yeah. Where's
Ryan
yes, we call them dollars.
Ryan Sullivan says, "Hey Rollo, sorry I was late emailing you back about the forum. Just get back to me. I will, Ryan. As soon as book 4 publishes, I'm going to get to all the guys who want to do translations for me. I'll get back to everybody who wants to help me out with other projects that I have already started that I probably should never have started while I was writing a book. Let's see. Deeper inside you or your mind says, glad I got to watch live. How would you guys tell the brothers here how to accept the mindset where you allow yourself to own her effectively?
I don't tell them anything. I share what worked for me and what's worked for others. And if you take it, you take it. But you can't have any expectations that guys are actually going to listen. That's just setting yourself up for disappointment.
One of the things I keep stressing is mental point of origin. And along with that is enlightened self-interest. And I don't think a lot of guys really can pair those two up effectively. It's one thing to go, okay, well, I'm going to go MGTOW monk mode or whatever, and I'm just going to make myself first and think of myself first. Good. But then when you get to the point where it's like, okay, I have helped myself pretty well. What am I going to do with this? That's when they kind of lose the narrative. So it's not that I think you should just be this selfish prick. I think that you should get yourself to a point where you can be effective as a man, as a human being, in fact, and then decide who it is that you want to help, who's worth your helping. And it's not that I think you should just be an asshole and never think of others. You should. But be in
you have to invest first.
Be in a position where you can actually be effective in helping those people. That's great. But as far as owning that woman, you need to be the guy that's really kind of particular to you. That's really kind of particular to the girl that you're with. I mean, I could say, go lift, be big, make a lot of money, be what women really want. But then, of course, what happens is guys will say, well, fuck what they want. Be what you want. Be your own. Be yourself. So I don't know. I've said this is like, there's no shame in self-improvement. There's no shame in wanting to get big just for the sake of looking better and having access to different women, to new women. If that's your only reason, well, okay, then start, looking at, have some insight as to why you want to make the changes that you do. But there's nothing wrong that if you say, I'm doing this for me. Oh, and by the way, I also get laid because I look better. That's okay. Go for it. Please do.
Yeah, you're allowed to want that.
You have to be the, as far as owning a woman effectively. And remember, you put own in quotation marks here. And I'm glad you did, because it's not so much a sense of ownership, because you're not going to own her. Even in marriage, you don't own your wife. You don't have any authority. You have zero authority. So that's why she's not yours. It was just your turn. Makes sense in a social order where nobody owns anybody, or they shouldn't anyways. The only way you get owned is if you enter into a legally binding contract, which is marriage. And marriage is an unconscionable contract. So, and that's actually a legal term, by the way, unconscionable contract. No one would enter into it if they had like full knowledge of what the potential of entering into that contract would actually be for them. So there you go.
Yeah. Or just consideration. There's the old one.
Yeah. Okay. And I also got, let's see, deeper inside your own. Okay. That was you. Women are, did I get the rest of this? No, that's this one. When's the 4th book coming out? I didn't avoid that one. Very soon, within, let's say, a month's time. And I'm hedging my bets with that, but within a month's time. I don't want to give a particular date because I'm trying to be strategic about it, because I have a lot of haters who fuck with me and my family and everybody else. So, and then let's see. I don't know how to say your name. It says E-I-E-I-O, whatever. Women are incapable of loving men in the way we want. Yes. I've done, go check out the videos I've already done on that. Men love idealistically, women love opportunistically. And so both men and women believe that the other shares a mutual concept of love. We do not. We are different, and we approach love differently. That's why. Can women love men? Yes. Can men love women? Yes, you can. But you have to accept the fact that you approach it from a different perspective. That's the basis of it. And I'm going to roll back a little bit here. I just saw this. Hold on one second. Thank you for that $100 super chat. Where did that go? Here it is. Bulldog mindset clips about to head out. Okay, sorry, Bulldog. Don't see anything either of you are disagreeing with me about. I stand by my original video with the addition of spin plates because perhaps I didn't mention that part. Good stream though. Lots of great points. Great. Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't want to retread that. I already said my piece on the other video. So
right. And I think that a lot of guys who are new, including yourself, to the red pill and the manosphere and the things that have where did things come from? How do we come to these ideas? It's real easy to simply, and I think maybe if John's not, certainly Dr. Sean is. I think it becomes really flippant, and because it fits into this idea that, if we keep telling men this, they're never going to want to get married. They're never going to make a commitment. Well,
yeah, that's what I call don't eat paint warnings. I hate those.
Rather than worry about that, worry about the reasons why you would be concerned about that in the first place. That's the meta. Don't worry about the Band-Aid, worry about the sore and the wound that's underneath that.
Well, for me, I just find it I know this is not what he intended, but I find language is important. First off, when you're framing everything from a female perspective, I've seen so many field reports. We actually had to make a rule in the subreddit where if you count more she statements than I statements, guy gets a ban. Because guys couldn't even tell their field reports from their own perspective. So I'm really sensitive to that stuff. Same as it's just, like I said, it all kind of comes out in the language. And I wasn't a fan of the shaming language in there either. Like as soon as I hear men ought to or men should, and I know you know the difference between a categorical and a hypothetical imperative, right? When I hear that should, what you're doing is you're selling, like you're putting man as an identity and you're saying all men do this and men have to do this or you're not a man. And I have seen that weaponized way too effectively and way too often to not raise a skeptical eye as soon as I hear, well, men should do this. Because it's never what's good for you that you should do. It's always what somebody else wants you to do that should be good. You know what I mean? Like man up. Perfect example of that. Now, I get it. It's effective. And if you were an unscrupulous person, which I'm not saying anybody else here is, but if you were the kind of person that just wanted to grift a bunch of people, that's the exact kind of language you use. But I also have a problem with people calling themselves coaches, but that's off the topic. But you see what I mean, though? I get it, it's YouTube videos, but you're putting out information, and I find that specificity is important. Because it shows that at least where you're coming from, you've considered that this needs to be focused on just the guy himself. And then when you give those don't eat paint warnings, like, hey, there's going to be an idiot out there who's going to screw this up. That reminds me of school shootings or video games cause school shootings.
Yeah.
We can't base anything that we do that has any worth off of what is the biggest idiot in the world going to do with this? Because we'd never have kitchen knives.
Right to the lowest common denominator. People have told me that since day one. Like right to an 8th grade level. I'm like, well, I would hope that the people who are reading my stuff have at least above an 8th grade level.
Well, and then you don't want anybody who doesn't reading this because they're going to, like he said, he's right on that. They're going to screw it up. But those guys are going to screw up eventually anyway. You can't save them. You can't fix stupid. So I would not only not worry about them because they're going to screw up regardless. All you're doing is giving them something to latch onto, but don't even cater them in any way. Don't provide hey, here's some nuance that'll help you if you're a complete moron. Yeah, it's just the whole, I'm kind of going to stammer here, so I'm just going to end it there. But you know what I mean? It's just a lot there to disagree with. Whether or not the points are good or is kind of irrelevant to me, but whatever.
Well, I mean, and then as I said, I just don't think people know, they don't do their homework, and maybe it's hard for them to do their homework. They hear something like that and they go, well, that's a trope that the red pill uses. And, I see guys talking about, you either, take one side or the other. You're on 21 con or you're come over here. Okay. Well, here's over here. Over here is, we know what we're talking about. Over here is, we're not, we know the history, we know the background and the meaning behind that. So it's not that I'm not attacking John. I'm not even attacking, I don't think you were, certainly not with Dr. Sean or anything like that. It's just here's the explanation. Here's why this is the way it is. And it seems like we're trying to school people. Oh, you got owned, you got destroyed. I'm not trying to destroy anybody. We're just trying to educate people. And that's really where it comes from.
If I want to start throwing rocks, I got people way higher on that list.
Higher than that. But it's also, I think that education is very important because we have this new generation of guys who are there who will actually, and your concerns are not unfounded, will take that trope and apply it and never make a move or like live in fear or whatever. They won't do anything with it because it's like the juice ain't worth the squeeze. That's pretty much the same thing, right? She's not yours. It was never yours. So don't squeeze her. Don't squeeze the juice out because the juice is not worth it. So it's really kind of the same thing. But when you are a life coach, when you are in this positivity thing, when you are the guy who's trying to, help men live I'm not saying everybody's bad. I mean, like Rich Cooper does the same thing, right? I think he's coming from a place of genuine, concern and genuine desire to do this, to help guys. Yep. But when you're dealing with a generation of guys who would, I mean, the prior generation of I think I've been in this for at least 2 generations of guys in the manosphere. They knew what it was about and they used it appropriately. Now guys come in and they want to, make it their person. They want to tattoo it on their arm. She's never yours. Warrior Ray said this, Rollo and Ryan, I find that older movies are more enjoyable because they tend to have a stronger sense of masculinity. What movies would you both recommend of displays of alpha and masculinity?
Rambo 3.
Oh God, I remember. Damn, now I'm gonna. It's funny. I don't know if you do this, but I work on an iMac and everything. Right now, I know damn well that I'm not going to say the word, but I know that I'm being listened to. So if I say Commando and I go down on my Apple TV, I'll like put on the movies for you. Commando will show up.
Oh, dude, my girl spoke Spanish to me to teach me some conjugations. I started getting Spanish ads on YouTube. Yep. I was like, what the, you sons of bitches.
Oh my God. And then I would suggest, let's see, a masculine. Okay. But beyond the obvious ones, I always thought that,
I like the spaghetti westerns too, though. We're getting serious about
it. Old school Clint Eastwood stuff is good. Where Eagles Dare. There's an old 1968 with Clint Eastwood and who was married to Elizabeth Taylor.
You gonna narrow that down a bit?
Yeah, well, the first guy, that guy.
Yeah, I'm like, I remember these things. Yeah, I'm not that young.
I forget the dude's name. That was a really good one. You want masculine movies? That was a good. Watch any of the the original Star Trek series. Look at Captain Kirk. Look at what's funny to me is when I go back and I look at, I've been watching, God, and I'm going to be.
Oh, yeah, I know. Next Generation, how it's like, how in the hell did I like this?
Right. Or if I watch old Star Trek, that's one thing. Have you ever watched, somebody made a compilation clip of the old Three's Company sitcom that was from Three's Company with Jack Tripper, or was it, who I forget the guy who's Chris
John Ritter.
Yeah, John Ritter and he was Jack Tripper was the name of him. And if you look at the jokes that are in that, you're like, and you look at it with a red pill lens, but also you look at it from like 2020 sensibilities, you're like, damn, nobody's ever going to do those things anymore.
Oh, yeah. All in the Family is over.
All in the Family is over. For old movies that I would say this, and I've used this as an example too, is go watch It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart, right? Jimmy Stewart.
I like a lot of the old Japanese films too. I know they end them on a downer. The guy usually kills himself in battle in that, but a lot of those like Kurosawa films were good for that one too.
I'm glad you brought up Clint Eastwood because like Dirty Harry was a good one. Some of those old ones. There's a lot. I mean, anything prior to any Arnold Schwarzenegger. Those are action adventure ones, though.
Well, they're almost lampooning it. They're so over the top. But I mean, I wouldn't look to them as like who do I want to emulate? So it's kind of better you pick the ridiculous examples.
Yeah, Rocky was a good one.
Ooh, Gattaca. I would say Gattaca.
Gattaca's a good one. Rocky was a good one.
Because think about that. If they did Gattaca today, he wouldn't have gone to space. He would have stuck around with Emu Thurman at the end.
Yep. That is true.
So that's a rare thing, even though that's not the movie you'd think of off the top of your head.
Let's see. Eddie Daniels, he said, if a guy is willing to, if a guy is willing to provide or commit to one woman, she perceives him as an easy mark. She has to hold back sex to get him to provide more.
Is he talking about the beta buck side where they try to get commitment first?
Well, it's like if a guy is willing to provide or commit to one woman, I think that, and I've addressed this before, and this is kind of off topic, but maybe not. It's I think that today that a man who is willing to commit, who makes it a point of his virtue, like, I'm the guy that's going to commit to you, baby. When guys commit, or they want to commit, or they're eager to commit, that is a sign of a beta right now. The guy who really wants to like sort of end his misery of being single. And he becomes, and you're right, he does.
That's it. They don't want a girl. They just want to not be alone.
Yeah, he becomes an easy mark. Also, when women like, did you see that? Did you see that one video of that girl who went into the Target and she like confronted
the wedding dress?
With the reverend and her maid of honor there, and she's in her wedding dress. And you marry me now, kind of thing, and puts him on the spot right there. And we laugh at it. Haha, very funny. But what that is that's a woman who wants to get married.
Yeah, she doesn't want a husband.
She doesn't. It doesn't matter who it is. Like, it could be any dick that walks in the store, right? It's not him. It's any guy. She just wants to be married. That's the difference between I want to have his babies and I want to have babies. There's a difference, a qualitative difference between those two statements when it comes from a woman. I want to be his wife. I want to be his woman. I want to be owned by this guy. We were asking, like, well, what about how do you own a woman? A woman has to want to be owned. She has to. What was it in Tim Burkhead's book? What is it? Promiscuity. Monogamy only happens if, for two reasons: the woman can't get anything else, or she wants to be in that monogamous relationship. It's either by force or by circumstance, or it's by choice.
It's almost Briffault's law.
Yeah.
If the girl sees value in the relationship, she'll make it work.
Right. So you have to be the guy who answers definitively, is he the best I can do? And that changes again over the course of time. That's why I said hypergamy is not a straitjacket. So there's your answer to that. We answered about O.J. Simpson. That was interesting. Let's see. Deeper Inside Your Mind says, Rollo, Ryan, in my experience, women enjoy being owned. Yes, they do, with the right guy.
The feeling of being owned.
Not
the legal framework of it.
Here's a really good one. Channel 1800 says, have a kid, 12. Used to bench 350. 4-pack. Good for you. 4-pack will do. Told I'm very handsome. She took my kid away 7 months ago, came back days before the lockdown and did it again 2 weeks. Sucks to be you. I'm sorry. Another thing, remember when we were talking about like how the guy who's really eager to sort of end his loneliness and his misery by saying, I'll be the one for you. And I want to commit. He tries to set himself apart from other guys because he's the guy that will commit to you. When you have that guy, he tends to be the guy that looks like he's beta, but you have to remember also there's a biological component to this too, because when men get into monogamous relationships, when they commit to a woman, whether that's through marriage or they have a kid or they're like, they're locked down, for lack of a better word, testosterone drops. Scientifically proven. As when men are single and they're banging women, they have a higher testosterone than when they parentally invest in a woman and in a child. And guess what? When they get divorced and they have their kids taken away from them, testosterone goes back up.
Mm-hmm. And they learn about the ownership thing.
Physical fact. Red
makes
pill
sense.
Confirmed by science.
Fuck science. Yeah.
Yeah. Science. Female solipsism works. Okay, I got to that one. Adam and Eve. We talked about that for a second. Oh God. Kirkpatrick says, are mask mandates, lockdowns, and peaceful protests a product of feminism taking over positions of power?
I think it's a little complex to be man-female dynamic.
In part, because the politics that, God damn it, now Carl's going to throw rocks at me too. Politics that we have right now are the result of gynocentrism, 50 plus years of gynocentrism in Western societies. Yes, there is your cancer. I'm not going to get any deeper than that.
Oh, so like the risk-averse aspects of it?
I would say so. I would say the communitarian aspects of it too. So everybody's doing it. You should do it too. You want to know why we get Karens? That's how we get Karens. You're not doing it. Everyone else is.
I get scored all the time. Just put it on and do what you do. And I'm like, no, I'll put it inside. Yeah, because they can kick me out. But I'm outside. This is my area.
I probably am going to miss some of these. I apologize in advance. That's fine. Ryan Sullivan, did I get to you already? Yeah, a Latin translation. Don't worry, the book is definitely going to be translated into. I already have a guy that's already translated into German. I just have to work out a deal with him. So that's German, anyways. Haha, Spa Day Getaway with Sterling Cooper. Alpha as fuck. I had to look up that one. There you go. Spa Day Getaway. Was he giving you grief about your spa days?
Whatever. I got another one coming up on Tuesday. I got
Go watch it. I probably will go watch Where Eagles Dare just because I brought that up. I don't know why that came to my head. And when I think of alpha movies or like conventionally masculine movies, that's one of the ones that kind of jumps into my head.
Dare. I don't think I've ever heard of this. This is new?
It's not Steve McQueen. It wasn't Steve McQueen that was in it. Thomas Crown Affair with Steve McQueen for Dude That's Alpha. Okay. All right. I don't know if I've seen that one. I've seen Bullet.
Oh, it's that Eastwood one from World War II. Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's really good. It's fantastic, and it's like espionage, and you don't have to. And remember, they did that whole thing in 1968. There was no computer graphics or nothing in this. I mean, there was like probably green screens, but that was about it.
Oh, cool. All right, I have to give it a go. I like the Cold War stuff. I miss the Ruskies.
Sam Whiskey says, in a Byzantine law, men are viewed as a weapon for walking erect. Women are viewed as protected class. Thank you for that history lesson, Sam.
Thank you.
Simple Fly says, I am happy to help you with the others if you like. Thank you for that suggestion. I might take you up on that once book 4 is out. Thank you. Okay. Ryan Sullivan, have you ever thought about immortalizing the words of the Rational Male with a Latin translation? A full Latin, like we're going to speak as the old ancient Romans did?
That seems awful.
I would absolutely
snooty, but I don't know, man.
Maybe the Pope could read it because I don't know anybody else who can.
In like the Gutenberg Bible font, it's just got like a
that would be fun. I would do it.
Levitating above the rest of us reading the book.
Do it in ancient, Gothic scripts too.
Yeah.
It could be the illuminated manuscript of the Rational Male. I would do it.
Written on what was the old paper called? Like vellum, or where they made them out of like sheepskin or whatever.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
The Necronomicon.
That's good enough. This has been a really good show. It has been actually way better than I thought, considering I had to do it on the fly. But anyways, what do you got going on? What's going on with you this week?
For me, it's just more videos. Honestly, after the convention, I kind of got a bit burned out, so I'm slowing down a bit. I'm just finishing last chapter of QA for the audiobook, and then I'll get that one out for guys so they can have it for Christmas if they want it. Still doing videos on a regular basis. I'll probably start up again with the sidebar stuff in the new year. Twitch has taken off. That's actually, it's kind of neat. It's casual. It's like guys just sitting around, goofing around, playing a game, and then we can talk about some concepts and that. So,
are you going to do that tomorrow? Is it going to be on Mondays now, or are you just doing it every other Monday?
The Twitch?
No, the what is it? The Among Us game?
Oh, that one there? I don't know. It's Rob setting that up in the chat. I got the first one started, and they kind of took a roll with it. So I like that one too, because I think
I wish I could talk on that. I could play the game with you guys. I just don't know if I could talk with you.
Yeah, you're really not helping with that boomer rumor going on about you. But it's good though. I like it, and everybody else seems to enjoy it too. So it's a good way, reach guys a little more casual. Because I notice too many guys take this too, like it's play, but you play serious. But they treat it like if you don't own a Lamborghini at 28, just kill yourself. And I'm like, guys, like slow down. You can have some fun once you've sorted out the major glaring flaws.
I own a Lamborghini. I own snowmobiles, but I don't own a Lamborghini. In fact, I own a quad that I think I might take out this afternoon. So
nice.
Into the desert.
But yeah, it'd be good. A lot of the guys will like you, and it's a platform that nobody really knows you on yet everybody references you. So it'd be kind of neat for them to see you there.
It looks like it's fun. I know it's popular right now. So
yeah. I mean, it's more so about the personality. So all that dark triad rules of power stuff we learned, we can start putting into practice.
And a lot of people don't know that I do Dungeons and Dragons with the guys from Masculine Geek.
I didn't know till your fucking Warhammer poster was up that one cast.
Yeah. I actually have been running a game with like 6 guys, and they're all from the Masculine Geek podcast. And like, I guess they enjoy it so much that they want to do it like every week. And I'm like, can we do like every other week maybe, or once a month? You
got hands in a lot of pots there between that and the band and and the dogs and the snowmobiling.
I needed to lay that out. I don't know how much snowmobiling I'm going to do. It's hot as summer right now here in Reno.
Really?
Yeah, middle of October, and it is as hot as I think I've remembered in October. No, I will be releasing a 4-song EP. The band that I'm in. I can't claim ownership. I'm just one of 5 people in this band. So But I think it's pretty good stuff. I like it well enough. And so the album drops. I want to call it an album. I guess it's an EP. We call it an album, right? It drops on Spotify on Halloween night. So
Ooh,
when
cool.
it drops, I will probably make a big stink about it. So watch for that right on Halloween. That's something to look forward to on Halloween.
What's the cover art?
I'll let you know. Like,
It better be like one of those. Remember, like Journey and them had those space.
Oh, have a big scarab with the big wings and stuff.
Yeah, like something you'd see out of Heavy Metal magazine.
The logo has wings. The album cover does not. The EP art does not. But
and a chick in a thong.
well, it's not. It's progressive metal. It's not like Steel Panther. I wish it was. Sometimes I would. It would be fun if it was, but actually, I'm doing something I think that the kids will like it. Gosh. Trying to think of have you ever heard of a band called Animals as Leaders with Tomassi?
Heard but never listened to.
Look up Animals as Leaders. It's kind of along those lines, but it's maybe a little heavier, a little more riff bass, obviously, because I'm in it. But it's something new. It's if I had to categorize it, I would say it's progressive metal. So
gotcha.
Best I can come up with. That will be Halloween night. And again, Wednesday, I'll be on at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Book is in process. I'm just going to leave it at that. Ryan Stone, thank you for joining me again, my partner. Hey,
man, always a pleasure. I just hope I gave you and the audience like enough value to warrant my time here. You know what I mean?
Oh, always, man, always. And it's always popular. I mean, shit, we had all 1,600 people watching for most of the show. So thank you guys for watching as well. I will see you guys on Wednesday, and I will see Ryan. I'll see you at the very earliest, probably Saturday for Rule Zero.
Most likely.
All right. Which will be on Rich Cooper's channel. So
nice.
All right, guys. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Have fun.